Li Mei's Sword of Destiny. Chapter 1528. Other than those who expressed their intentions to participate, Bai Mingnongyue, Li Yufeng and Qin Wentian's relationship was also very good. However, just based on this layer of friendship, it was impossible for the Dark North Immortal Emperor and the experts from the 100 Refinements sect to participate in this storm. Similarly, the Ying clan and Thunder God Hall, who had a grudge against Qin Wentian, also didn't plan to participate. They only wanted to spectate from the sidelines. The chaotic period of the immortal realms has already arrived. Accumulating strength was the most fundamental. Being able to see the other peak powers fighting against each other was something they wished for. If they didn't want to, they naturally wouldn't participate. Unless, at a crucial moment, they didn't mind stabbing Qin Wentian. In any case, no matter how many experts participated, Qin Wentian had to die. There was no doubt about this. The Sanluo Immortal Emperor didn't mind Qin Wentian committing suicide. However, since there were people who wanted to fight for Qin Wentian, he could only personally act to kill Qin Wentian. Glancing at the Southern Phoenix matriarch in the air, he turned to the Emperor of the Forok race. You have a similar bloodline to him. Since this is the case, I will leave the Southern Phoenix matriarch to you. Right. The name of the Emperor of the Forok race was Jayema. He was a supremely powerful demon emperor who had the fusion of two supreme bloodlines. His talent was unparalleled and he was an extremely terrifying old monster. This time when Jia Huangtian was killed, he just so happened to be in the city of ancient emperors. In addition, Jia Huangtian was a descendant he had high hopes for and had obtained his guidance. Hence, he personally came to the Evergreen Kingdom. He also wanted to see how strong the Southern Phoenix matriarch, who had the bloodline of the primordial divine phoenix and was also the strongest expert of the human race, the Namhuang clan. In an instant, the experts in this space all connected to the heavens and earth, shining with resplendent light. Those who didn't participate in the battle unceasingly retreated, preparing to give up the battlefield. A battle of this level was sufficient to affect the entire royal capital of the Evergreen Kingdom. The evergreen tree had already enveloped the entire space below the royal capital. Qing and the others were all drawn into it as well. Evergreen. The Chongqing the Great spat out a cold voice. The eternal evergreen tree that covered the entire imperial city moved. Countless vines let out rustling sounds as they shot towards all the enemies. They were like a prison of vines wanting to trap all the experts within. It was like a prison of heaven and earth. Every branch and leaf of the vine emitted a dazzling radiance, imbued with the power of laws, evergreen and indestructible. A terrifying wave of demonic might shot up into the sky. Jayema of the Forok race moved, transforming into his true form. In an instant, a gigantic Forok blotted out the sun. With a flap of his wings, everything was slashed apart. He directly lunged towards the Southern Phoenix matriarch and the divine phoenix she was mounted on. The Southern Phoenix matriarch exuded a magnificence that was rarely seen in the world. She stretched out her jade-like hand and pointed a finger forward. An illusory divine phoenix rushed towards the Forok, exuding inextinguishable flames. Since the Southern Phoenix matriarch joined the battle, the immortal emperors of the Namhuang clan who came together with her naturally wouldn't stand by the side and watch. All of them stepped out, joining the battle. The Southern Phoenix matriarch represented the entire Namhuang clan. Her participation in the battle indicated the attitude of the Namhuang clan. Capture them. The experts of the White Tiger people howled as they rushed towards the immortal emperors of the Namhuang clan. Terrifying spatial light radiated forth. A terrifying void beast king soared through the air, piercing through everything as it rushed towards Qin Wentian. The eternal evergreen tree that enveloped Qin Wentian shattered unceasingly. Chongqing the Great wanted to use the eternal evergreen tree to protect Qin Wentian. But how could it be so easy when facing the attacks of so many experts? At the same time, another expert soared through the air. It was none other than GD. A terrifying spatial storm manifested around her, directly enveloping her opponent within. Several void beast demon emperors rushed over, clashing against the immortal emperors under GD. The most powerful emperor-level battle in the countless years of the immortal realms erupted in the Evergreen Kingdom. The immortal emperor of the Sacred Sun sect walked out. He was a supreme expert, the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect. Sunlight cascaded down from the sky as he transformed into a true sun. Boundless sun flames blazed forth, incinerating the vines of the eternal evergreen tree. In the air, a fearsome might suddenly locked onto him, enveloping him. This caused the eyes of the sacred sun sect leader to gleam with coldness. He inclined his head and stared at the sky. A pillar of flames directly soared up into the sky, incinerating the heavens as a sacred sun sword manifested. The sacred sun sword pierced through the air and shot towards Emperor Yu, who was in the air. Emperor Yu's body also shone with astral light. The arrow in his hand shone resplendently, radiating towering sun flames that seemed capable of shooting down the sun. That's the Divine E arrow. A supreme divine weapon once used by ancient Emperor E. A divine light flashed in the eyes of an expert. He could feel the heaven-shaking might of that arrow. Right now, it was actually in the hands of Emperor Yu. This old fellow had truly hidden himself very deeply. Before this, he had actually been hiding in the God Hand Mountain manor, not revealing his true abilities. The divine arrow shot through the air, directly penetrating through the sacred sun sword that the sect leader of the sacred sun sect unleashed, shooting towards the sect leader. However, as the sect leader of the sacred sun sect, how could he not have any powerful treasures on him? The sun crown on his head shone resplendently as heaven-shaking law energy gushed forth, transforming into a sun. With a thunderous boom, the entire space seemed to explode as terrifying flames incinerated everything. Even for ordinary immortal emperors, they had no choice but to retreat. Emperor Yu, who was in the air, wielded the divine arrow once more. This time around, 3 arrows shot out, enveloping 3 immortal emperors. Other than the sect leader of the sacred sun sect, the other 2 immortal emperors were also locked onto, causing them to be on guard as they moved closer to their sect leader. A peak stage immortal emperor like Emperor Yu. In addition to the E-God arrow, it was unimaginable how much destructive power he could unleash. If it was someone who just entered the immortal emperor realm, he would definitely be killed in a single strike. There was no doubt that although they were all immortal emperors, how could the disparity of 2 levels be so easy to make up for? The might of this divine E arrow is extremely great. It can even restrict several immortal emperors at the same time. The spectators silently mused. Wherever Emperor Yu's arrow locked onto, everyone would be in danger. This was the best weapon to intimidate others. In addition, when they thought of Emperor Yu's words of revenge earlier, their expressions grew even more unsightly. If Emperor Yu managed to leave this place alive, it would be extremely dangerous. Who wants to join forces with me to kill him? The sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect coldly spoke. His ambitions were extremely great. He actually wanted to make Emperor Yu stay here forever. Both of them were peak stage immortal kings, and Emperor Yu had the divine E arrow. However, the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect didn't fear Emperor Yu at all. It's just that it wouldn't be so easy to kill him. In addition, if Emperor Yu was allowed to continue fighting, it would be a huge threat to them. Hence, he might as well bring along a peak character to kill Emperor Yu. I'll go. Ziti coldly spoke. Emperor Yu had provoked him time and time again, and would indeed be a threat in the future. It would be for the best if he could use this chance to kill Emperor Yu. The Sacred Sun sect was a supreme power in the central regions of the immortal realms. One could very well imagine how powerful the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect was. If it wasn't for the fact that the commotion this time was so great and he was coincidentally in the city of ancient emperors, he wouldn't have come here. 2 experts soared up into the air and instantly shot towards Emperor Yu. Emperor Yu's eyes flashed. He didn't choose to fight directly. He directly soared higher up into the air. If he was surrounded by 2 peak stage immortal emperors, it would be extremely disadvantageous to him. With the divine E arrow in his hands, his long-range attacks would be extremely useful. Naturally, if he could make these 2 peak characters unable to participate in the battle, he would also be able to gain an opportunity for the others. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and several other immortal emperors from the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom were intercepted by the immortal emperors from the Heavenly Talisman Realm. The Emperor Qianbian was still fighting against his old opponent, Eastern Sage, while the greater demon from the Heavenhold race was intercepted by the Judiciary Devil Hall. The Sunluo Immortal Emperor grabbed out in the air as a towering might gushed towards Qin Wentian. The ancient Buddha statue of the Wenqin Temple appeared before him, and as Buddhic chants rang out, the entire space around him transformed into a world of Buddhas. Why does your Wenqin Temple have to participate in this battle? The Sunluo immortal emperor coldly spoke. Benefactor Qin and the One Qin temple are fated. Fate is enough. The Reverend replied. When the 9 emperors' immortal state, the Supreme Sword School and the Taihua immortal dynasty rushed over, there were experts from the Apostle Devil Hall and myriad ancient Devil Hall blocking their way. Haha, only such a battle is interesting enough. An immortal emperor from the Ying clan laughed uproariously. The entire royal capital was enveloped by the might of an emperor-ranked battle. Chongqing the Great made use of the eternal evergreen tree to attack the immortal emperors from all directions. However, he would also suffer from powerful attacks from time to time, causing the eternal evergreen tree to shatter unceasingly. From the looks of it, Qin Wentian's side was barely able to contend against the immortal emperors. But in truth, it was clear with a single glance. They could only barely hold on for a moment. It was basically impossible for them to ensure that Qin Wentian didn't die. And this was also when the alliance powers didn't move out in full force. Some of them were still in the city of ancient emperors or in their clans. In fact, everyone could see that these immortal emperors were extremely ruthless. Since the Southern Phoenix matriarch said that all grudges would be resolved after this battle, they naturally didn't hesitate to use this chance to kill some immortal emperors. Hence, although they had an absolute advantage, they didn't attack too ferociously. They were suppressing their opponents, aiming to kill the immortal emperors. If not, the sect leader of the Sacred Sun sect and Ziti, these 2 peak characters, wouldn't have joined forces to deal with Emperor Yu. But even so, an immortal emperor soon arrived before Qin Wentian. An immortal emperor from the Supreme Sword School stepped out. Every step he took caused heaven-shaking sword might to radiate from him. Astral light cascaded down on him as his sword intent penetrated through everything, directly slamming into Qin Wentian, causing the faces of many to turn pale. However, Qin Wentian's body shimmered with a heaven-shaking law light. His constellation manifested from his astral soul shone brightly as a river of sword chi manifested behind him, shooting up into the air, aiming for the incoming sword intent. You will die sooner or later. You're just putting up a last-ditch struggle, implicating others. Although the immortal emperor from the Supreme Sword School was only an initial stage immortal emperor, it was already sufficient to kill Qin Wentian. Even Chongqing the Great was being held back and had no time to spare. Many people sighed. As expected, no one could save Qin Wentian. That immortal emperor from the Supreme Sword School stepped out. Sword intent descended from the heavens as he pointed a finger at Qin Wentian. His paragon sword penetrated through everything, slashing into the river of sword chi. The surrounding area was filled with countless swords. They were on a completely different level compared to immortal kings. The boundless sword intent penetrated into Qin Wentian's body. His expression was extremely unsightly to behold. He closed his eyes as though he was putting up a last-ditch struggle. Chapter 1529. But at this moment an immortal king actually used it. However, could it be that Qin Wentian thought that the power of an immortal king would be able to obstruct an immortal emperor? Immortal emperor? Pei Qing, you are only an initial stage immortal emperor. Baiming Nongyue coldly mocked. Before this, Pei Qing still considered himself an immortal emperor, saying that Qin Wentian couldn't be compared to him. But in the blink of an eye, Qin Wentian actually killed an immortal emperor. Even with so many experts fighting for him, it was still hard for him to escape death. At the same time, the constellation behind Qin Wentian transformed into a supreme devil. In just an instant, numerous devils descended from the heavens, causing thunderous rumbling sounds to echo out unceasingly. They directly enveloped all 8 directions, locking down this entire space, blocking the descending light from the heavens. Qin Wentian does have some brains to actually think of such a method, wanting to fight against immortal emperors. However, it's like an ant trying to shake a tree. Ultimately, he overestimates his own capabilities. Everyone mused. One of the reasons why I can kill so many people from your major powers is because they are all the same as you, believing themselves to be infallible. One must know that astral radiance resonance could greatly amplify immortal emperors. But immortal emperors didn't simply rely on this. Their cultivation bases would also undergo a transformation, and the energy contained within their bodies would also be extremely terrifying. It was very normal for immortal emperors to restrict each other, but immortal kings wanting to sever space? Wasn't this the ravings of a fool? Jun Mengchen, Qing'er and the others stared at such a glorious battle. However, there was no joy in their eyes, only intense worry. The destructive light continued to rain down. It was too fast. The naked eye couldn't even follow it. A roar of humiliation and unwillingness rang out as the palm imprint actually destroyed the sword intent. Finally, the palm imprint slammed into the body of the immortal emperor. Since a single palm imprint couldn't kill the immortal emperor, it would continue to do so. Screams of misery rang out unceasingly, and finally, the immortal emperor's body couldn't withstand the destructive might and exploded, turning into dust. This was just like how celestial kings did not borrow the power of heaven and earth to transform it into their own power of rules. However, could it be that the power that celestial kings themselves contained would be weak? If he was really that weak, then when Qin Wentian fought with the king of hell, he was shrouded in the azure hell and the rules were disrupted. Wouldn't Qin Wentian be vulnerable? Would he still be alive now? Kill! Qin Wentian roared. The devil god behind him let out a heaven-shaking roar. A pair of devil god palm imprints appeared in the sky. Countless devil god palm imprints descended, resembling beams of destructive light, frenziedly blasting towards the immortal emperor. Pei Qing narrowed his eyes, glancing at Bai Mingnongyue as he spoke. As an immortal emperor, I naturally have the qualifications to be arrogant. At that time, what did he count for? A mere immortal king dared to be so arrogant before me. If we weren't in the Dark North Royal Palace, how could I spare him? Now his ending proves everything. One's personality determines one's fate. Sure enough, the attacks on the battlefield became even more violent. Several immortal emperors broke out of the encirclement and charged towards Qin Wentian. You are truly humorous. The immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School smiled at Qin Wentian. After that, he slashed out with his sword, but he didn't slash at the gigantic palm imprints in the air. Instead, he directly slashed towards Qin Wentian. What a mere immortal king dares to do, you as an immortal emperor might not dare to do so. He is merely an immortal king, yet he was able to cause half of the major powers in the immortal realms to participate in this war. Pei Qing, you have always boasted that you are extraordinary, the #1 genius of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. But in front of him, your radiance seems to have dimmed. Are you jealous? Bai Mingnongyue spoke. Pei Qing felt even more unhappy in his heart. Even with the Dark North Immortal Emperor by his side, he couldn't help but snort coldly. From this one could see how unhappy he was. At this moment, the sky-covering hand that separated the void seemed to have truly turned into a super terrifying demonic formation. The power of Qin Wentian's bloodline erupted forth ferociously. An incomparably terrifying pitch-black divine turtle appeared, shining with a blood-red light and holy will. It actually wasn't destroyed by the sword slash, causing the immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School to have a look of bewilderment on his face. The sword intent radiating from Qin Wentian towered. His closed eyes abruptly opened. With just a single glance, the sky changed color. That immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School only felt a towering sword intent transforming into a river of swords gushing over, wanting to pierce into his soul. This caused his eyes to freeze as a terrifying sword might erupted forth from them. If a few hundred more years passed, once he truly broke through to the immortal emperor realm, it would be even more difficult to kill him. The energy in his body frenziedly surged. Right now, even if he wanted to borrow astral energy from the constellations in the sky, he could only depend on the energy in his body. Instantly, countless sharp swords manifested around him, wanting to slash through everything. However, they were all swiftly destroyed by the devil palm imprints. Qin Wentian raised his hands as a devil saber appeared in the air, slashing down together with the devil palm imprints, directly aiming for the immortal emperor's soul. Even that immortal emperor felt a piercing pain in his soul as his countenance turned pale. The terrifying devil palm imprints blasted down. Even immortal emperors couldn't ignore them. The immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School pressed his palm down in the air. In an instant, the sword imprints floated before him as the boundless might of the Supreme Sword School swept over everything. Rumble, the frenzied palm imprints slammed down. But they were all destroyed by the sword intent. However, there seemed to be no end to these palm imprints. There were simply too many of them. The Supreme Sword School started to tremble as its sword light grew dimmer and dimmer. The eyes of everyone flashed. Qin Wentian actually still had combat strength left. He wanted to block the immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School from using astral energy from the constellations in the sky. The most obvious sign of an immortal emperor was that the constellations in the sky shone together, far surpassing immortal kings. When emperors fought, they would often use such methods to restrict the strength of their opponents. Many immortal emperors narrowed their eyes. This was especially so for those who hated Qin Wentian. In that case, Qin Wentian deserved to die even more. If he didn't die, those who were fighting wouldn't be able to feel at ease. Pei Qing narrowed his eyes as a cold intent radiated from him. This was a topsy-turvy battle. Although the people here were all Empyreans, they still felt a deep shock in their hearts. In the battlefield, that immortal emperor from the Paragon sword sect pointed out with a finger. His sword intent was boundless and boundless, like a constellation descending from the heavens, wanting to completely engulf the sword river around Qin Wentian. But at this moment, all the spectators were completely stunned. The one who died wasn't Qin Wentian. Instead, it was the immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School. Bai Mingnongyue felt somewhat unhappy when she heard this. She coldly spoke, "Just because I once smacked your face, you became unhappy and became arrogant? Don't forget who was the arrogant one back then in my Dark North Royal Palace. In the end, he was humiliated and had no choice but to flee with his tail between his legs." The might radiating from the immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School grew even more violent. Boundless sword intent converged into one, transforming into a supreme sword. The heavens and earth rumbled as the sword intent towered up into the sky. His lips curled up in an arc, exuding a cold-killing intent. This strike was sufficient to kill Qin Wentian. This immortal emperor had an unsightly expression on his face. He finally understood the meaning behind Qin Wentian's words. For some people, even if they were only immortal kings, they still couldn't be underestimated. However, to those who wanted to protect Qin Wentian, this battle was an incomparably joyous one. But at the same time, they couldn't help but sigh. Would such a character really die here? Their battle grew even more frenzied, blocking those immortal emperors who were rushing towards Qin Wentian. In the direction of the Dark North immortal emperor, Pei Qing stood in the air, quietly watching the battle. He then spoke in a light voice, "This man's cultivation base isn't high enough, yet he is so arrogant. I knew he would die sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be so fast." An immortal king slaying an immortal emperor? Outside the battlefield, there were people who rejoiced in Qin Wentian's misfortune, while there were others who were extremely nervous. Jun Mengchen, Nam Huang Yunxi and the others wanted nothing more than to join the battle. Sadly, although they were already considered outstanding characters at the Immortal King realm and could be considered experts in the immortal realms, the participants today were all immortal emperors. They basically didn't have the qualifications to participate. This meant that even if this immortal emperor of the Supreme Sword School ignored Qin Wentian's spatial isolation, and didn't borrow the power of the astral energy from the descending constellations, he would still be able to suppress immortal kings with absolute dominance. Qing'er and Qin Wentian's beautiful eyes stared unblinkingly at the battlefield. Or more accurately, they were staring at the location where Qin Wentian was at. At this moment, Qin Wentian seemed somewhat weak. As for Qing'er, after experiencing Qin Wentian's marriage proposal and advice, she no longer cried. Her beautiful eyes flickered with an extremely cold determination. Qin Wentian's exhaustion rate was extremely terrifying. Even his body was covered in sweat. There was still a difference between theory and reality. Although he had plotted many times to kill immortal emperors, it was still incomparably difficult for him to do so. This caused him to sigh with sorrow. "Can you all be quiet?" Princess Kitamura frowned, her tone filled with impatience. Bai Mingnongyue and Pei Qing also didn't continue speaking. That immortal emperor from the Supreme Sword School had a mocking smile on his face. He inclined his head and glanced at Qin Wentian, who had spatial isolation. That incomparably gigantic devil body, as well as devil path palm imprints, were like a grand formation, isolating this entire space. This defense was actually so strong to such an extent. Although cracks appeared on it, it actually didn't shatter. No wonder he could dominate the Immortal King realm unhindered, causing experts from all directions to gather here. All of them wanted to kill him, not only for revenge but also to eliminate a threat. Since a grudge had already been sown, they couldn't allow such a demon-level character to rise up step by step. The further he grew, the harder it would be to kill him. For this point, Zidi and Dongshang Heaven Emperor could sense it the deepest. When Qin Wentian was weak, although they had killing intent, they didn't do so because of their status and in consideration of the face of immortal emperors. Hence, it was too late for regrets. The Dongshangshan Gate was destroyed. Zidi's son Zidaolong was killed by Qin Wentian. Now, just to kill Qin Wentian, they actually had to expend so much effort and mobilize so many supreme powers. Was Qin Wentian going to die? As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, the devil god shadow behind him roared in rage. Qin Wentian pointed his finger in the air and in an instant, the spatial isolation palm imprint moved. It was like the palm of a devil god, unceasingly splitting apart. At this instant, countless devil palm imprints slashed down from the air, aiming for that immortal emperor from the Supreme Sword School. Incineration Transformation. Chapter 1530. Pei Qing naturally understood the hidden meaning in Nanfeng Nongyue's words. How could his expression be good? The first time he met Qin Wentian in the royal palace of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, he was extremely proud of his status. But now, the person he once looked down on actually killed an existence on the same level as him. In addition, everyone understood that this wasn't as simple as killing an immortal emperor. Qin Wentian killed an immortal emperor as a cultivator at the Immortal King realm. Even if Qin Wentian was an initial stage immortal emperor, how could the initial stage immortal emperors from the Supreme Sword School be weak? Being able to kill immortal emperors at the Immortal King realm. In that case, if Qin Wentian broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm, what sort of grand scene would that be? Sadly, such a scene would never be seen again. Everyone was very clear about this point. There's nothing to compare with a dead man. Pei Qing coldly spoke. There's basically no way to compare, right? The number one genius of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom? Bai Mingnongyue mocked, but there was no excitement in her eyes. She naturally could see the situation on the battlefield. More and more experts increased their attacks, wanting to kill Qin Wentian no matter what. Even Princess Kitamura, who was beside her, couldn't help but to sigh in her heart when she saw this scene. Although she always felt that Qin Wentian was very shameless, but after today's matter, her impression of Qin Wentian had completely changed. The hegemonic powers of the immortal realms gathered here, surrounding the Evergreen Kingdom and forcing Qin Wentian to show himself. Everyone in the world knew that as long as Qin Wentian appeared, only death would await him. But even so, he still came here without any hesitation. Knowing that he would die for sure, he still came. Such a person, how could you say that he was shameless? It was rumored that he was unrivaled in the Immortal King realm in the city of ancient emperors. He killed many supreme geniuses from the peak powers before he won this battle. If those were just rumors, but after personally witnessing him killing an immortal emperor, was there still a need to doubt anything? He would only be stronger and more talented than the rumors said. If he was still alive, he would surely be a hero of his generation in the future. Even if countless major powers in the immortal realms wanted to kill him, given how vast the immortal realms are, he could simply conceal his identity and change his identity, like the saber-sword immortal king, silently cultivating. No matter how many people wanted to kill him, as long as he was careful enough, he might still be able to ascend to the peak of the immortal realms. But he had come. He had come with unparalleled talent. He had come to die. For his sake, the immortal Champion Gate, Namhuang Clan, GD, Emperor Yu, and even the experts of the myriad Devil Islands and the eminent monks of the Wenqin Temple joined in. This kind of person was completely different from the person Princess Kitamura knew. Hence, she could not help but recall the words that the madman had told her. Thinking about it, she could only sigh. Because no matter how outstanding Qin Wentian was, no matter how good her feelings for him were, he wasn't far away from death. At this moment, there were two immortal emperors rushing towards him. Although Chongqing the Great and the others were frenziedly suppressing them, the number of peak stage and mid-stage immortal emperors wasn't any lesser compared to Qin Wentian. There were even more initial stage immortal emperors. Hence, it was basically impossible for initial stage immortal emperors to break through. On the contrary, Chongqing the Great and the others were being suppressed. Staring at the two immortal emperors rushing over. Although they were both initial stage immortal emperors, This time around, they no longer underestimated Qin Wentian. Astral light cascaded down on them. The two of them were like gods, unexcelled in the world. They wouldn't give Qin Wentian any chance at all. Among these two immortal emperors, one was an immortal emperor from the Taihua immortal dynasty. The other was a demon emperor from the void beast race. Terrifying spatial energy erupted forth as the powerful demon emperor directly appeared before Qin Wentian. His gigantic claws tore through everything. Those claws were like sharp swords, terrifying to the extreme. Devil might erupted forth from Qin Wentian. The astral light formed from his astral soul was still present, and the Devil King shadow was terrifying to the extreme. 10,000 devils descended, blotting out the sky, instantly enveloping this entire space. When the terrifying claws slammed over, Qin Wentian's bloodline power frenziedly erupted forth, fusing his holy will into the divine turtle's defense. But even so, the defensive barrier was directly torn apart. The sharp claws directly slammed into Qin Wentian's body of laws, causing it to shatter apart. Qin Wentian didn't seem to feel any pain at all. His eyes pierced through everything, directly piercing into his opponent's mind. His sword intent pierced through his eyes, penetrating his opponent's body as a tyrannical force assaulted his opponent's soul. Roar! That void beast roared in rage. His attacks had already arrived before Qin Wentian. There was no way he would fail again. Even if space was separated, it wouldn't be able to obstruct him from killing Qin Wentian. The terrifying claws slashed into Qin Wentian's body. The emperor-level law energy within him erupted forth with heaven-shaking might, tearing apart Qin Wentian's body of laws. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. The sight of it was too horrible to look at. Many people had already closed their eyes, unable to bear to watch. Jun Mengchen screamed in agony as he clenched his fists. However, he couldn't go. If he joined the battle, he would only be sending himself to death. He had to stay alive to take revenge for his senior brother. Little Rascal transformed into a gigantic golden beast and rushed forward. However, he was grabbed tightly by that old demon, not allowing him to exit. It wasn't easy for him to find a heaven-devouring beast with a pure-blooded bloodline. How could he allow Qin Wentian to die? His greatest goal was to watch Qin Wentian grow. Purgatory's beautiful eyes flowed with tears. She thought back to the memory she had with Qin Wentian. She wanted to rush out, but she was similarly grabbed by the old heaven-devouring beast, not allowing her to die. The other immortal emperor stood at the back. When he saw that Qin Wentian would die for sure, he didn't act anymore. Die! At this moment, a heaven-shaking roar of rage rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth. Even though his body was being torn apart, he still let out a terrifying roar. The soul-piercing attack, as well as the attack from the dream world, all materialized into reality, directly slamming into the void beast, sending him flying through the air. At the same time, a heaven-shaking devil palm imprint blasted out once more, wanting to destroy everything. It was like a supremely powerful devil formation, slaying the void beast on the spot. Countless people were shocked, staring at the scene before them with disbelief. A final strike before death was actually so terrifying? Killing an immortal emperor. When his body was being torn apart, he could actually still unleash such a powerful killing intent. Was he really just an immortal king? Right now, Qin Wentian's current state could only be described as one that was too horrible to look at. His entire body was soaked in blood, and his body was in tatters. That head of his was in tatters, and it was extremely bizarre. However, that pair of resplendent eyes that shone like the stars in the sky were still able to stir the souls of those who saw it. He stared at the immortal emperor, who was in a daze. Senior brother. When Jun Mengchen saw this scene, tears actually appeared in his eyes. How tragic. His exuberant senior brother Qin, who was always calm and collected, was actually in such a miserable state. He hated these people, and he hated himself for being useless. Bai Qing's entire body radiated with a terrifying judgment light. Her eyes were scarlet red, so red that it was terrifying. Her Wentian Gige was suffering from such a torment. Evergreen White Emperor, the two of us cannot live under the same sky. A howl of grief and anger rang out in the air. It was actually the voice of the Paragon Sword Emperor of the Supreme Sword School. Evidently, the Supreme Sword School encountered the same thing as the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom back then. When the war erupted here, the White Emperor had already acted. The two of us can't live under the same sky. The Chongqing the Great's voice was cold to the extreme, causing the expressions of the spectators to change. As expected, although everyone agreed that after this battle, all grudges would be cleared, how could such an emperor-ranked battle be resolved so easily? In addition to the current situation in the immortal realms, with the invasion of the greater demons of the desolate mountains, it was already destined that chaos would descend upon the entire immortal realms. No one would be able to escape unscathed. Before this, the Evergreen Kingdom was originally considered to be on the weaker side. But if these people killed Qin Wentian today and didn't destroy the Evergreen Kingdom, given the peak stage cultivation base of the White Emperor, in addition to the fact that the Chongqing the Great and the Evergreen Tree were both here, the balance of power between the major powers in the eastern regions would definitely be reversed. At this moment, the crowd discovered to their shock that the devil might behind Qin Wentian was extremely terrifying. It gushed out frenziedly, enveloping this entire space. Those body parts that were torn apart actually flew back to the original body as they started to reconstruct themselves. Undying energy? You have the undying law attribute energy? That immortal emperor from the Taihua immortal dynasty had an extremely unsightly expression on his face. He initially thought that there was no need for him to be in a hurry to fight. Qin Wentian killed the demon emperor of the void beasts before his death. In that case, Qin Wentian would definitely be an arrow at the end of its flight. He didn't want to be in a hurry to kill Qin Wentian in case he suffered the backlash from Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian actually had an undying body. That attack earlier basically couldn't kill Qin Wentian. The constellation behind Qin Wentian grew even more terrifying. One could see numerous resplendent astral souls radiating with all their attribute energies, erupting forth with incomparable ferocity. Terrifying law energy gushed forth, flowing into the terrifying palm imprint in the air. Quickly act. A thunderous roar rang out. That immortal emperor from the Taihua immortal dynasty understood, but he only saw a pair of terrifying eyes that dragged him into a dreamscape. He naturally knew that this was a dream and that he could return to reality. But the problem was that the attacks in the dreamscape were real attacks. Killing a few immortal emperors to accompany me? It's not a loss at all. Qin Wentian laughed maniacally. Boundless law energy gushed forth from him, as though he wanted to drain all his energy. The devilish palm imprint slammed down once more, blotting out the sky as it shot towards his immortal emperor. Although his immortal emperor's attack once again shattered his body, the boundless devil palm imprint also caused his immortal emperor to be on the verge of death. Finally, as a roar of despair rang out, his immortal emperor died earlier than Qin Wentian. And at this moment, Qin Wentian was truly an arrow at the end of its flight. The energy in his astral souls had all been sucked dry. A thunderous boom rang out. A mid-stage immortal emperor destroyed his devil palm imprint. He stood in the air, coldly staring at Qin Wentian with disdain. Even with such a powerful lineup, 3 celestial emperors had been killed by a celestial king. Chapter 1531. Regardless of the experts who were fighting or the spectators, all of them were greatly shocked. Qin Wentian, who was surrounded, relied on his own strength to kill 3 immortal emperors. Incomparably powerful combat prowess, terrifying cultivation talent, and an undying body. He was simply perfect. Such a supreme genius like Qin Wentian, if he broke through to the immortal emperor realm, it would be even more difficult to kill him. And if he broke through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm at that time, who in the vast immortal realms would be able to stop him? This caused everyone to shiver. Luckily, they came here today to kill him. If not, if he grew stronger, he would become a true enemy. This was especially so in this chaotic era. If he rose up, it was unknown how many major powers that had grudges against him would be annihilated. The death of the 3 immortal emperors caused many experts to sigh in admiration. Their decision this time around wasn't wrong. Killing Qin Wentian before he grew stronger was undoubtedly the correct decision. Those spectators couldn't help but to sigh. It was truly a pity for such a character to die here. However, for those who were hostile towards Qin Wentian, all of them hoped that he would die here. In this era, everyone hoped that they could become a supreme existence, standing at the peak of the immortal realms. Qin Wentian caused their hearts to tremble. Luckily, he was still going to die in the end, completely annihilated. At this moment, in the airspace above Qin Wentian, that mid-stage immortal emperor shattered Qin Wentian's devil palm imprint. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at him. The remnant energy in his astral souls churned wildly. His eyes were terrifying as he stared up at the sky. Even at the final moment, facing against a mid-stage immortal emperor, he still wanted to fight. Swish, Chongqing the Great's vines broke through the encirclement and shot over, wanting to destroy everything. However, that mid-stage immortal emperor wasn't an ordinary character either. Astral light shown as boundless law energy gushed forth, lacerating the vines. He stared at Qin Wentian below and pointed out with a finger. In an instant, a constellation manifested. Its destructive might penetrated through everything, blasting towards Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian roared, and his rule power soared into the sky, turning into a true dragon and a vermilion bird. The mid-stage immortal emperor in the air stomped down, causing the heavens and earth to tremble. Boundless might penetrated through everything, tearing apart the true dragon and killing the vermilion bird. The violent killing might penetrated through everything, gushing into Qin Wentian's body. Terrifying sizzling sounds rang out as Qin Wentian's incomplete body shattered once more. Qin Wentian's energy was completely exhausted. He only felt a wave of helplessness. More immortal emperors were rushing over. Everyone understood that no matter how high Qin Wentian's talent was, there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. More than 10 supreme powers wanted him dead. How could he survive? Qin Wentian himself also knew that he wouldn't be able to survive. He turned and stared at Qing'er and Qingqing, who were enveloped by the eternal evergreen tree. A radiant smile could be seen in his eyes as he stared at Qing'er and Qingqing. Qing'er also smiled at Qin Wentian. At this moment she didn't cry. She was the same as Qin Wentian, smiling radiantly, beautiful to the extreme. It was like she wanted to imprint her most beautiful face into Qin Wentian's mind, only to see Qin Wentian opening his arms, like he wanted to hug her. It was also like he knew that if he died, he would give up everything. The immortal realms were filled with beauties. The rivers and mountains were like a painting, cultivating for several hundred years, exuding magnificence through the generations. Defeating immortal kings, fighting against the heavens, he would rather betray the world than betray her. Destructive energy gushed forth, destroying everything. Qin Wentian's body shattered. At this moment, even if it was a broken body, there was nothing left. He was completely destroyed. Staring at the vanishing silhouette, the battle in this entire space seemed to come to an abrupt halt. It was so sudden. The battles between so many immortal emperors suddenly came to a halt just like that. In this battle there were immortal emperors who died, immortal emperors who were heavily injured, and immortal emperors who fled. Such a violent battle. At the instant of Qin Wentian's death, everything strangely came to a halt. The experts in the air all slowly returned, staring at the vanished silhouette of Qin Wentian. Did he die? Naturally, a mid-stage immortal king radiated with astral light, unleashing a destructive might that pierced through his opponent's body. How could he not die? No matter how strong his body was, he would still be reduced to ashes. Some had cold eyes, some heaved a sigh of relief, some let out howls of grief and anger, and there were also some who sighed silently. An unrivaled king in the city of ancient emperors, killing so many geniuses from the various major powers in the immortal realms until they couldn't even retaliate. A supreme character who consecutively killed 3 immortal emperors despite being surrounded by so many immortal emperors, had died just like that? From now onwards, there would no longer be a Qin Wentian in the immortal realms. Is he finally dead? Dongsheng Heaven Emperor's countenance was cold to the extreme, but the flames of hatred in his heart had yet to vanish. He still wanted to destroy the Evergreen Kingdom and the immortal Qinbian Gate. However, he also understood that with Qin Wentian's death, there was no way for this battle to continue. So many major powers were embroiled in this storm. After killing Qin Wentian, if these people continued to act, even if they won in the end, their revenge would be uncontrollable. Zidi also stopped his battle. He stared downwards as his eyes gleamed with violet light. No one knew what he was thinking about. Bai Wuya let out a roar of rage. Fresh blood actually seeped out from his palms. Revenge, he definitely had to take revenge. His gaze swept through the crowd, memorizing the names of those who participated in the battle. For this hatred, he had to take revenge no matter the cost. The Emperor Qianbian, Bai Wuya, and the other two immortal emperors from the heavenly talisman realm all sighed in their hearts. Bai Wuya had no expression on his face, but his deep eyes flickered with an intense killing intent. Qin Wentian was personally guided into the heavenly talisman realm by him. Ever since Eastern Sage accepted disciples, he was already acquainted with Qin Wentian, who was still cultivating in his particle world. One could say that he had watched Qin Wentian grow up. Although Qin Wentian referred to him as senior brother and they were fellow apprentices, in truth, the relationship between the two of them was more like that of an elder and a junior. Bai Wuya felt this way in his heart, and so did Qin Wentian. But now Qin Wentian had died. He, Bai Wuya, was the one who guided him into the heavenly talisman realm, yet he didn't have the ability to protect him. He inclined his head and stared at the air. Back then, was his decision to guide Qin Wentian into the heavenly talisman realm right or wrong? He doubted himself. The Chongqing the Great had no expression on his face. His eyes swept over everyone here as he remembered everything. This wasn't merely the death of Qin Wentian, it was also the greatest humiliation he, the Chongqing the Great, had ever suffered in his life. This was a humiliation to the Evergreen Kingdom. However, he didn't despair too much. He believed that he would return in the future. The Southern Phoenix matriarch sighed silently. She only met Qin Wentian a few times, but this didn't affect her admiration for him. She still wanted to see him rise up. What a pity. Many experts from the Namhuang clan sighed silently. However, they couldn't change anything. It was already very rare for them to be willing to take such a risk to participate in the war. The ancient Buddha of the Wenshin temple pressed his palms together and chanted. Both his eyes were closed, and his countenance was solemn. The karma of today will be reaped in the future. Everyone take care. As the sound of the Buddha voice faded, a bright light flashed as his body vanished from sight. The people of the Askhart temple all left one after another, leaving behind a Buddha voice that seemed to contain a deeper meaning within. However, since it was a Buddha language, how could it be so easy to comprehend? They didn't understand and didn't want to understand it. The people here were all major characters. Since they did this, they had already thought of the consequences. No matter what the consequences were, they would accept it. Brother, take care. Li Yufeng mumbled. He was merely an immortal king. He wouldn't be able to change anything. Bai Mingnongyue, Su Qingyao, and even the fox goddess silently sighed. Tears could be seen in Su Qingyao's eyes, causing her immortal emperor parents to glance at her in bewilderment. However, she soon adjusted herself and wiped away the tears in her eyes. But even so, she still felt a sense of sorrow. Such a battle, she would never be able to forget it for the rest of her life. Princess Kitamura stared at the battlefield, staring at Qin Wentian's vanishing silhouette. Her eyes were as deep and cold as ever. At this moment, she couldn't help but think back to the days when she was acquainted with Qin Wentian. She thought of how disrespectful Qin Wentian was towards her. How disrespectful he was towards her. She should have personally killed him. But now that Qin Wentian died, why didn't she feel any joy at all? On the contrary, she felt a sense of sorrow instead. In the quiet space, howling sounds rang out unceasingly. These were none other than Little Rascal's howls. Along with his howls, the tears of purgatory could also be heard. The old heaven-devouring beast directly brought them away forcefully. If not, these two little fellows would really send themselves to death. The gazes of many involuntarily turned to the same direction. That was the direction of the Evergreen Kingdom, where Qing was. For her, Qin Wentian had come here despite knowing that he would die for sure. In that direction, an extremely beautiful maiden was kneeling on the ground, sobbing. Her long hair covered her flawless countenance. This maiden was none other than Mo Qingcheng. However, what was completely different from her was that when Qing stared at the direction where Qin Wentian disappeared, she didn't cry. She was smiling instead. Qin Wentian's silhouette seemed to still be there, resounding in her mind. He was smiling at her, and his smile was so beautiful, so handsome. Hence she also smiled. Her smile was extremely beautiful. So beautiful that even the experts in the surroundings couldn't help but be stunned. As she smiled, Qing long hair fluttered in the wind. A strand of her hair was as white as snow. After that, the hearts of many suddenly pounded. Qing fluttering long hair turned into snowflakes, and in the blink of an eye, her entire head of black hair transformed into a snow-white color. Her hair turned white in the blink of an eye. However, her beautiful eyes were still filled with a smile. Even though her hair had turned white, she was still as beautiful as ever. It was a different kind of beauty, a beauty of desolation, so beautiful that it stirred the hearts and souls of people. Chongqing the Great's heart pounded violently, feeling pain in his heart. Even for the females who had nothing to do with Qin Wentian, they all felt pain in their hearts. The Grand Priest of the Judiciary Devil Hall sighed. His silhouette flashed as he returned to Bai Qing's side. But at the next instant, his eyes narrowed as his body involuntarily trembled. Bai Qing. His heart pounded violently as he stared fixedly at Bai Qing, only to see that at this moment, Bai Qing's eyes were still staring ahead, staring at Qin Wentian's disappearing silhouette. Her eyes were the color of blood, and tears could be seen flowing out from them. The tears that flowed out were dark red blood, tears the color of blood. Chapter 1532. This battle has ended. Qin Wentian died in battle. Before this, the Southern Phoenix matriarch, Qin Wentian and the Sanluo Immortal Emperor agreed that after this battle, all grudges would be cleared. However, could they really be cleared? In such an intense battle, the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom, Evergreen Qing'er, one of the core characters of this battle, had her hair turn white in an instant. The man she deeply loved had died in battle. Could they really be cleared? Leaving aside her talent, there was still the Chongqing the Great and GD behind her. There was also another shocking scene that everyone saw. An immortal king priestess of the Judiciary Devil Hall actually shed tears of blood. No one knew what this meant, but at the very least, if this priestess was in control of the Judiciary Devil Hall, she would definitely spare no expense to bring the army of the Judiciary Devil Hall into the immortal realms for revenge. The immortal Qinbian Gate lost their most outstanding disciple. Everyone in the immortal realms knew that ever since Qin Wentian's cultivation base was weak, the immortal Qinbian Gate had always been nurturing him. How could they clear their grudges? Everything was destined to happen. The battle today was merely a fuse. In the future, the immortal realms would no longer be peaceful. In addition, leaving aside the fact that there were immortal emperors who died in battle today, the White Emperor razed the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom to flat ground. Other than a few immortal emperors who fled, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom no longer existed. After that, the White Emperor even invaded the Supreme Sword School. Could this grudge be cleared? The experts of the Ying clan, the Jiang clan, the Thunder God Hall and many other forces all had faint, meaningful smiles flashing across their deep eyes. Even if the battle today could not continue, it was already enough. This storm would definitely continue. Perhaps these forces would be at peace for a few years, but in the end it was just a matter of time. In addition, right now, they still had to return to the city of ancient emperors to contend for supremacy. When they meet again, things would definitely be extremely interesting. Phoenix Matriarch, if there's a chance, I will definitely capture you. Follow me back to my clan to serve me. The emperor of the Forak race, Jia Yema, spoke to the Southern Phoenix Matriarch. After that, his silhouette flashed as he soared through the air. The experts of the Forak race all followed after him. Qin Wentian was the killer of Jia Huangtian. Now that he was dead, there was no need for them to continue fighting. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch coldly glanced at them. After that, the various experts retreated one after another, vanishing without a trace. Even the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor, Zidi, Eastern Sage and the others who wanted nothing more than to destroy the Evergreen Kingdom also retreated. The Southern Phoenix Matriarch, GD and the others glanced at Qing'er as they sighed. The Chongqing the Great kept the eternal Aucuba tree. Qing'er looked at the experts in the air. Her hair was white as she bowed, thanking them for their kindness. No matter what the outcome was, these people were fighting for Qin Wentian. After that, Qing'er turned and walked towards Emo Qingqing, who was kneeling on the ground. Her body didn't move at all, and she was completely silent. Qing'er's hands brushed past Emo Qingqing's hair. Her hands brushed past Emo Qingqing's shoulders as she supported Emo Qingqing up. Emo Qingqing inclined her head. Just a single glance caused the hearts of many who were staring over to tremble. Before this, they had already noticed this beautiful maiden. In fact, many of them knew about the relationship between her and Qin Wentian. Maybe because Qin Wentian didn't want his enemies to know, he didn't bid farewell to her before this. Emo Qingcheng was originally a supreme beauty. Her eyes were pure, filled with intelligence, capable of toppling empires. But at this moment, her eyes were a pair of deathly gray eyes, devoid of life and spirit qi. It was as though she had already lost her life. At the instant Qin Wentian was destroyed, her life force was also sucked away, as though she had died once. Qing Er's hair was completely white. She stared at Emo Qingcheng's eyes and carried Emo Qingcheng up as they walked towards the royal palace of the evergreen immortal empire. She promised Qin Wentian that she would take good care of Emo Qingcheng. My condolences. The Southern Phoenix matriarch stared at the backs of the two maidens as she sighed. After that, she glanced at Qin Wentian, who no longer existed. After that, she brought her people and departed. The experts from the Evergreen Kingdom also departed. A battle that would affect the future of the immortal realms, changing the history of the immortal realms, came to an end just like that. The imperial palace of the Evergreen Kingdom was incomparably quiet, filled with an aura of sorrow. Such an emperor-ranked battle naturally circulated around the vast immortal realms at the fastest speed. This was especially so for the upper echelons of the immortal realms. After that, the news of the emperor-ranked battle spread from the upper echelons to the various main cities of the immortal realms. After that, the news spread to the smaller immortal cities, becoming a legend that many people loved to talk about. Qin Wentian's name rang out for the first time in the immortal realms. His name wasn't only famous in the eastern regions. In fact, in the immortal realms, there were many extremely powerful immortal emperors whose fame couldn't even be compared to Qin Wentian. In this heaven-shaking battle, Qin Wentian faced the encirclement of so many immortal emperors. With a cultivation base at the immortal king realm, he managed to kill 3 immortal emperors. After his death, the princess of the Evergreen Kingdom's hair instantly turned white. There was even a priestess from the Myriad Devil Islands who had an extremely good relationship with him who shed tears of blood. This became a legendary story discussed by the ordinary people of the immortal realms. In addition, after this immortal war, the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Supreme Sword School, 2 other hegemonic powers, were also destroyed. Only a few immortal emperors remained alive. Namhuang Clan Jiue Palace. Back then, Nanfeng Jiue was a peerless beauty. And now the master of this Jiue Palace, Namhuang Yunxi, had a terrifying cultivation base as well. Many people guessed that she might be a character on par with Nanfeng Jiue. At this moment, in an elegant location in the Jiue Palace, the sound of a zither could be heard. The melody was very beautiful, but it was so beautiful that it caused people to feel a sense of desolation. A voice rang out. After that, an extremely beautiful holy maiden of the Namhuang clan walked over. Dang! The zither melody trembled as the strings broke. Nanfeng Shunga stared at the zither before her and smiled. It's just an ordinary zither after all. The strings can break easily, and the user can die easily. Shunga, ever since the Southern Phoenix matriarch returned, your zither melody has been unstable. How many times has it broken already? This has never happened before. Also, you seem to have tossed your cultivation aside. Could it be that his death is so unforgettable to you? This holy maiden and Nanfeng Shunga were both holy maidens of Namhuang Yunxi. Their relationship was extremely close. Ever since the Southern Phoenix matriarch brought the experts of the Namhuang clan back, Nanfeng Shunga was already in such a state. She naturally could guess the reason. Nanfeng Shunga smiled gently. She was still as beautiful as ever. In terms of looks, she could stand shoulder to shoulder with Namhuang Yunxi, pure and ethereal. Although we cultivate for an extremely long period of time, there are some people that you might only meet once in your lifetime. He is undoubtedly such a person. Nanfeng Shunga calmly spoke. If he was safe, I would silently admire him, watching as he ascended step by step to the peak. I wouldn't disturb him. But sadly, the heavens are jealous of him. Since things have already reached this point, what can we do? I know his magnificence was unrivaled. He displayed his brilliance in the Tiandao Sacred Academy. He was unrivaled in the Immortal King realm in the City of Ancient Emperors. He even killed 3 emperors in a single emperor-ranked battle. However, he has already passed away. We still have to cultivate. Right now, Yunqi is in seclusion, not allowing anyone to disturb her. How can I feel at ease when you are like this? That holy maiden sighed. Everyone in the world said that beauties were the source of calamity. However, if a man was too outstanding, wouldn't he be the source of calamity as well? For example, Namhuang Yunqi and Nanfeng Shanga. They were both holy maidens of the Namhuang clan with extraordinary talent. Regardless of cultivation or beauty, they were all outstanding. However, they were all willing to silently watch a man grow. Not disturbing him, silently admiring him. But now that he had died, they were filled with sorrow. I'll be fine. I'll adjust myself, there's no need to worry about me. Nanfeng Shanga smiled. She continued playing the zither. Without the zither strings, the melody she played seemed to be lacking something. The moment we met in the ancient inheritance grounds, I've missed my entire life. The holy maiden sighed as she turned and departed. Several months later, many pieces of news circulated around the immortal realms. For example, the Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the Paragon Sword Emperor brought several other immortal emperors and joined forces with the Dongsheng Heaven Emperor to attack the Evergreen Kingdo Palace. However, the Chongqing the Great didn't go to the city of ancient emperors to cultivate. Instead, he stayed in the Evergreen Kingdo Palace and seemed to be prepared for this. He used the eternal evergreen tree to seal the area. The White Emperor, GD, and the Emperor Qianbian appeared, catching their enemies off guard. In this battle, 3 immortal emperors were killed. The Dongsheng Heaven Emperor was injured, but he managed to escape. The Sky Mist Immortal Emperor and the Paragon Sword Emperor also killed their way out. The number of people remaining in the Tenlon Heaven Kingdom and the Supreme Sword School was even lesser. Almost all of them were killed. The situation in the eastern regions changed drastically. Those few peak powers that didn't make any movements were still lying in ambush, watching the battles between the peak powers. As for the immortal lord of the Taihua Immortal Dynasty, from then on, he stayed in the city and didn't dare to go to the city of ancient emperors to cultivate. He was worried that one day the other party would directly attack his Taihua Immortal Dynasty. In the myriad Devil Islands that the immortal realms couldn't touch, a major event also happened on the Devil Mountain. The Judiciary Priestess Bai Qing was promoted to the Grand Priestess when she was still at the Immortal King realm. The Judiciary Hall Lord personally guided her in cultivation. Naturally, no matter how chaotic the external world was, the battles in the city of ancient emperors would always be the most intense. Because the heroes of the world were all gathered here. After Qin Wentian died, another batch of people rose up in the Immortal King realm. There were also some who broke through to the Immortal Emperor realm. It was rumored that the strongest character in the Immortal King realm was Hua Taishu. However, after he destroyed the Sun Gold race in the past, only a few people saw him. However, in the northern regions of the Immortal Realms, in the territory of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, there was a forbidden ground in the Dark North Immortal Mountain. There was a stone tablet guarding a dilapidated city. In that area, an extremely sloppy-looking old man was circling around something. His eyes were staring ahead, spinning around unceasingly. However, if one looked at it with their naked eyes, they wouldn't be able to see anything. But if they released their powerful immortal sense, they would be able to faintly sense an extremely minute fluctuation. Even for him, it was extremely blurry. Strange, did he really die? The sloppy-looking old man mumbled to himself. That shouldn't be the case. Why is it so strange? He continued spinning around as though he didn't understand. His immortal sense completely enveloped the area before him, but he still couldn't sense anything. After a long time, he sat down and closed his eyes. In an instant, there seemed to be a formless figure walking out from him, directly moving towards that strand of aura, entering it bit by bit. He had to see what was going on exactly. How could this be hidden from him? Finally, he seemed to have sensed something. Very swiftly, his body trembled as his eyes abruptly opened, gleaming with a terrifying divine light. A single glance from him seemed to be able to pierce through the heavens and earth. What a good fellow, what treasure is this? His interest was piqued. As he peeled away the cocoon bit by bit, he finally peeled away that wisp of soul. Unexpectedly, he saw a tiny person that resembled a star. Chapter 1533. The space within the tiny astral being was as vast as the starry skies, boundless and boundless. At this moment, there was an invisible object floating in the starry sky. It was as if it was a void that could not be seen or touched. After a long time, this formless object seemed to have gained a strand of consciousness. It actually floated up and roamed about, sensing everything here. The formless soul transformed into a blurry silhouette. It was actually Qin Wentian's silhouette. Where is this place? Qin Wentian sensed this space. It seemed to be a boundless starry sky. But very soon he discovered that this place wasn't the 9 heavenly layers. It was a similar place. This is the tiny astral being in my sea of consciousness. A strand of consciousness appeared in Qin Wentian's mind. He was extremely shocked. He didn't die. The undying scripture seemed to have saved his life. Also, the remnant of his soul was actually absorbed into the tiny astral being. What treasure was this thing his father left behind for him exactly? As long as one's soul isn't destroyed, it means that one will never die. Qin Wentian's soul fluctuated. After that, he actually started to cultivate in his soul form. He didn't think about that battle, he didn't think too much about it. Right now, he only had a single thought in his mind. Live on, he had to live on. With the undying scripture, his soul could be revived. At that time, he could reconstruct his body. As long as he didn't die, there would be hope. Even if he lost everything, he could always start over again. Time flowed by bit by bit. This world was incomparably quiet. There was no sound at all. However, given how intense the battle was, even with a heaven-defying art like the undying scripture, wanting to revive his soul wasn't something that could be done in a short period of time. Once he started cultivating, he forgot about time. In the blink of an eye, 7 years passed. During these 7 years, many great changes occurred in the immortal realms. The city of ancient emperors also underwent many changes. Experts rose up constantly, and there were also experts who fell. With regards to the battle that happened in the past, many people gradually forgot about it. Qin Wentian's name was also gradually buried in their memories. Maybe only then would people casually mention that battle that shook the immortal realms. However, there were some people who wouldn't forget that battle. For those who participated in that war back then, many of their juniors were killed. In fact, there were even 2 immortal emperors who died. From this, one could very well imagine how powerful that expert was. A peak stage immortal emperor, Emperor Yu. Hence, a pursuit occurred in the immortal realms. Several peak stage immortal emperors chased after Emperor Yu, heavily injuring him and almost killing him. But even so, Emperor Yu still managed to escape. This battle caused a huge commotion in the immortal realms. However, no matter how the outside world changed, the forbidden land of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom was still deserted and barren. The slovenly madman seemed like he would never be bored, but he also seemed to be used to loneliness. He lay on a rock in the ruins and seemed to be asleep, quietly waiting for something. Within the tiny astral being, after 7 years of cultivation, Qin Wentian's soul had already grown stronger and stronger. Just like in the past, he could clearly manifest a soul body and stand in this space. At this moment, he finally stopped his cultivation. His soul body floated in the air, moving towards a particular constellation. In the next instant, a resplendent astral light flashed. Qin Wentian only felt many memories appearing in his sea of consciousness. However, these weren't memories of his father but were memories of innate techniques. Heavenly Battle Divine Fist. When cultivated to the extreme, one can shatter an entire world, possessing the power to destroy the heavens and earth, shattering space itself. Qin Wentian's sea of consciousness trembled. His soul body floated towards another constellation, and in the next instant, brand new memories appeared. Slaughter Divine Art. When cultivated to the grand completion stage, millions of rays of slaughter light would manifest with a lift of one's hand, transforming into a boundless art of slaughter. A single strike could annihilate millions of lives, a world-destroying art. Qin Wentian's soul body trembled, unceasingly flying towards the constellations. Every time he did so, his soul body would tremble. After a long time, he stood in the air in a daze like a wooden chicken. It was like his soul had left his body. Naturally, the him right now was only his soul. All of them were supreme arts that were comparable to God's hand. Each and every one of them was sufficient to cause the entire immortal realms to go crazy. However, within the tiny astral being, there seemed to be an inexhaustible supply of them. After a long time, his soul body trembled as he mumbled, "Father, what heaven-defying treasure did you leave behind for me exactly?" When he died, his main soul didn't die and was brought into this space. From this, one could very well imagine how heaven-defying this treasure was. Maybe back then, his father relied on this treasure to not die and was able to restart his cultivation. Qin Wentian then thought of what his father was forced to hand over by his clan. Could it be that it was this heaven-defying treasure? And now, his father passed this treasure down to him. He recalled the time when he was still a baby. It must have been that time. He once thought that this treasure only contained fragments of his father's memories. He didn't expect that there would be so many divine arts within it. Also, even now, he still hadn't completely unearthed the secrets of this treasure. What exactly was this tiny astral being? It has been so many years. Are Qing and Qingqing still doing well? Also, I wonder how Bai Qing, Mingqian, Yunqi and the others are doing. And the me now, where am I? Am I still in the Evergreen Kingdom? Qin Wentian mused. After which, his soul floated outwards. In the outside world, the eyelashes of the sloppy old freak twitched. After which, he opened his eyes and sat up. Before him, a faint aura that was so weak that it was almost impossible to sense it started to grow stronger and stronger. After which, a powerful soul aura gushed forth as a formless current of qi flowed about. After which, a soul body appeared, transforming into Qin Wentian's silhouette. The eyes of the slovenly madman gleamed with sharpness as he stared at this scene in bewilderment. He stared at Qin Wentian's soul body and spoke. "Interesting, you actually awakened within that treasure?" Qin Wentian also started. After he woke up, he wasn't in the Evergreen Kingdom. To think that he was actually in the forbidden ground of the Mountain of Laws in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Not only that, he encountered this old freak again. "Old fellow, are you the one who brought me here?" Qin Wentian asked. His tone was very natural. Interesting." The old freak jumped down and circled around Qin Wentian. He was filled with curiosity as he asked, "What's inside that treasure? Where did you get it from?" "Passed down by my ancestors." Qin Wentian rolled his eyes. "Passed down by your ancestors? The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms wouldn't be able to take out such a treasure." The old freak narrowed his eyes, surveying Qin Wentian. His gaze caused Qin Wentian to feel uneasy. "Forget it, I won't ask anymore. You probably don't even know. However, when you see me, this old man, you should at least kowtow to me. Why do you still have such an attitude?" The old freak spoke. Qin Wentian rolled his eyes and ignored the old freak. "After I died, what happened to the Evergreen Kingdom?" Qin Wentian asked. "After you died, the battle stopped. As for what happened to them now, I have no idea. However, you better worry about yourself first. Right now, other than your soul energy, you don't even have a physical body. You actually still have the mood to think about other things." The old freak spoke with interest. "Didn't you impart the undying scripture to me? As long as my soul doesn't die, I'm also undying. What's there to worry about?" Qin Wentian asked. Why don't you try forging a physical body?" The old freak smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian, like he was looking at a rare treasure. The uneasiness in Qin Wentian's heart grew even more intense. Qin Wentian's soul body nodded. After that, he sat down cross-legged as flesh, blood, tendons, and bones gradually appeared on his soul body. After a long time, his soul was enveloped by a physical body. This was a complete physical body with no flaws at all, exactly the same as Qin Wentian in the past. But when Qin Wentian opened his eyes, he was staring ahead in a daze, his gaze somewhat lifeless. Stretching out his hands, Qin Wentian stared at his glowing skin as he mumbled, "Do I have to start all over again?" Only when his physical body was being rebuilt did he realize that this time around, he had truly died once and wasn't merely heavily injured. His physical body was shattered and his soul was almost destroyed as well. Only a trace of indestructibility remained, allowing him to come back to life. But the result was that although his soul energy was still extremely strong, his physical body was now completely empty. However, his reconstructed body was empty. There was no power of the stars, let alone the power of rules. He had become an ordinary person through and through. Am I crippled? Qin Wentian mumbled. Ha! The sloppy madman suddenly laughed uproariously. He inclined his head. His eyes seemed to be able to penetrate through the void as he sighed. There's actually such a foolish person like you in the world. Do you know what sort of good fortune this is? Even those supreme characters would be willing to pay any price for such a good fortune. But you actually have such thoughts? Good fortune. Qin Wentian froze for a moment before his eyes flickered. In an instant, Qin Wentian's heart violently trembled. He sensed the energy of the heavens and earth, as well as the flow of astral energy. Indeed, it was incomparably clear. As though he suddenly thought of something, Qin Wentian abruptly closed his eyes. After that, his perception soared upwards. Not long after, when Qin Wentian opened his eyes again, a sharp light flashed as he was in high spirits. He glanced at the crazy old man and understood why the crazy old man was laughing so loudly. Do you understand now? The old freak smiled as he stared at Qin Wentian. Many thanks, Senior. Qin Wentian bowed. You are finally willing to call me Senior? The crazy old freak stretched out his hand and pushed his long hair to the back. He narrowed his eyes and stared at Qin Wentian as he smiled. So what if you have to restart your cultivation? Do you know how many characters didn't hesitate to reincarnate? Yet, they didn't have such good fortune like you. You have a powerful soul and experience, and with the advantage of astral souls, how fast would your cultivation speed be? As for your cultivation base with your previous insights, would there still be any obstacles before the immortal emperor realm? Qin Wentian nodded. Before this, did you sense the 9th heavenly layer? The crazy old man laughed. Qin Wentian stared at him as he replied. The 8th heavenly layer. This time around, it was the crazy old man's turn to be stunned. After that, he started laughing maniacally again. The 8th heavenly layer. My first constellation is from the 8th heavenly layer. In the future, all my astral souls will originate from the 8th heavenly layer, and I can choose them again. Chapter 1534. Qin Wentian's heart trembled as he stared at the crazy old man who was laughing uproariously. 8th heavenly layer. Also from the first astral soul onwards, 9 astral souls were condensed from constellations in the 8th heavenly layer. Qin Wentian naturally understood what this meant. It meant that at the same cultivation level, he could easily insta-kill his opponents. Even if he only relied on the advantage of astral souls, the astral energy in his body was innately powerful. Even if he comprehended laws of the same attribute, his law energy would still be stronger compared to others. In addition, he could choose a new combination of astral souls. Given his past talent, in addition to such a heaven-defying opportunity, what sort of monster would he become? Qin Wentian's heart pounded. He actually didn't feel any frustration from having his cultivation crippled. How intelligent was Qin Wentian? After a brief moment of absent-mindedness, he instantly understood after the crazy old man's reminder. It was impossible for stellar martial cultivators to succeed in a single step. Although he originally had the soul of an immortal king, his body was a reconstructed one. There was no astral energy, no arterial pathways, no yuanfu, and no immortal foundation. But so what of it? His soul was already at that level. In addition to his cultivation experience and talent, and now that he condensed an astral soul, how fast would his cultivation speed be? At the very least, Qin Wentian was confident that before he reached immortal foundation, he would be able to become an immortal in just a few years. What could this amount of time count for to immortal foundation characters? Could it be that this wasn't considered a heaven-defying opportunity? The crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he stared at Qin Wentian. In the upper immortal realms, there are many characters you wouldn't be able to come into contact with. They used all sorts of methods, rebirth, reincarnation, all for the sake of breaking through some shackles. But who would have thought that this good fortune of yours would actually fall into your lap? Qin Wentian shook his head and smiled bitterly. To him, this was truly an accident. He narrowly lost his life. His fleshly body shattered and his soul was almost destroyed. Coincidentally, he was absorbed by the tiny astral being, and in addition to the fact that he cultivated the undying scripture, he managed to recover his soul. This was the reason why he obtained such a good fortune. If it was someone else, could it be that his soul was destroyed? That would be a true death. Although he didn't know whether the tiny astral being or the undying scripture played a greater role in him escaping this calamity, he knew that both of them played a significant role. Also, the undying scripture was a heaven-defying art that couldn't be obtained by just anyone. The old freak standing in front of him had a mysterious identity, and most probably had a terrifying origin. As for the others, so what if you cultivated the undying scripture? Could it be that you want others to destroy your soul? Who could control and blast you until you just happen to be left with a remnant soul? Even if there really was such a brilliant person, would a powerful person dare to do so? What if the other party really wanted to kill him? This was simply courting death. What a pity! Qin Wentian suddenly let out a sigh. His bloodline had also disappeared. However, with this opportunity, even without the support of the bloodline, he would still be more terrifying than before. Moreover, he had cultivated an outer body incarnation, which had the power of the bloodline. Senior, you seem to be very familiar with the other immortal realms. Out of the 33 immortal realms, what grade does the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms belong to? Qin Wentian asked the old freak. Earlier, although the old freak only casually spoke a few sentences, he could tell that he understood the immortal realms outside of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. There's no grade. The 33 immortal realms are all cultivation grounds. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms are the same as the other immortal realms. It's just that the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is a little special, and is isolated from the other immortal realms. The old freak inclined his head and stared at the sky as he spoke. Isolated. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. Senior, please enlighten me. Seems like you already know that you can no longer stay in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Might as well let me introduce you to the other immortal realms. The old freak stared at Qin Wentian. After that, he slowly continued. Earlier, I've already said that the 33 immortal realms are all cultivation grounds. However, even for the same immortal realms there are differences in strength. This is especially so after countless years of evolution. The structure of the immortal realms gradually formed. The old freak stared at Qin Wentian. The supreme ancient immortal realms that are located at the highest point of the 33 immortal realms have become the gathering ground of the supreme powers, standing above all the other immortal realms. In fact, they are known as the upper worlds. As for why such a structure was formed, even I have no idea. It's the evolution of history. You only need to understand that the supreme ancient immortal realms are the rulers of the 33 immortal realms, standing above all other immortal realms. In fact, the vast majority of the immortal realms in the 33 immortal realms are directly governed by the supreme powers of the supreme ancient immortal realms. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. Even the vast majority of the immortal realms were governed by supreme powers? How strong were those powers exactly? Most probably, they weren't on the same level as the powers in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Or they could be destroyed with a flick of a finger. Qin Wentian involuntarily thought of the powerful ancient clan his father was from. He wondered what level that clan belonged to. Given how powerful his father was, he was still so cautious. Even in a particle world, he didn't dare to show himself easily. In that case, the clan his father was from must be extremely terrifying to the extreme, an existence that could cover the sky with a single hand. Also, if he didn't guess wrongly, his clan should be in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Not only is the supreme ancient immortal realms the supreme immortal realms, it's also located at the very center of the 33 immortal realms. From what I know, there are a few supreme hegemons in the supreme ancient immortal realms. Each of them doesn't just govern a single immortal realm. They occupy a few other immortal realms. Over there, people only worship them. Maybe it's hard for you to understand. Let me tell you in more detail. For example, in the western region of the supreme ancient immortal realms, there are 4 immortal realms that are governed by a supreme Buddhist sect. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed. In the upper world, there was actually such a terrifying Buddhist sect in the supreme ancient immortal realms that governed 4 immortal realms? This was simply too terrifying. Naturally, among the countless living beings in the world, because of their different talents, other than Buddhist cultivators, there would naturally be different types of wuxiu. But in the 4 immortal realms in the western region, the power of the Buddhist Tao has already reached a level where it can rule over everything. Hence, the foundation of the Buddhist Tao is naturally the deepest. The strongest innate techniques and cultivation arts are all from the Buddhist path. For immortal realms, no matter how strong a power is, it would be hard for them to govern them, right? How should they govern them? Qin Wentian asked. Naive. No matter what, you have already cultivated to the peak stage of the immortal king realm, and are only a step away from the immortal emperor realm. To think that you are so foolish. When one's power is strong enough, would there still be a need to govern them? The crazy old freak stared at Qin Wentian in disdain. Each immortal realm is a complete world and has its own laws of operation. For example, this Azure Mystic Immortal Realms is the same. If the upper world sent a supreme power to guard this place, and there are ancient emperors among them, would there still be a need to govern them? Qin Wentian nodded. This was indeed the case. After all, this was a world where cultivation reigned supreme. When one's strength reached a certain level, everything would be simple. They only needed to maintain their strength. If not, once they fell, they would naturally lose control of the immortal realms. Why isn't the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms governed by a supreme power? Qin Wentian curiously asked. After the crazy old freak said this, he felt that the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms were a little special. They actually had no way to know any news about the upper world. The Azure Mystic Immortal Realms? The crazy old freak laughed. Because there's someone who doesn't allow people from the upper world to enter the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian's eyes narrowed. There was actually such a terrifying existence? Earlier, this old freak has already said that there were some supreme hegemons in the upper world who were able to control several immortal realms. From this, one could very well imagine how terrifying the peak experts of the upper world were. Yet, there was actually someone who dared to forbid people from the upper world. Such a character was definitely a legendary character. Naturally, for those at or below the immortal emperor realm, he wouldn't obstruct them. It's just that those people might not be able to traverse the immortal realms. The crazy old freak continued. Senior, you said that those supreme hegemons in the supreme ancient immortal realms control the vast majority of the immortal realms. In that case, how can those existences in the supreme ancient immortal realms allow such an arrogant character to exist? Qin Wentian curiously asked. The formation of the supreme ancient immortal realms was formed after countless years of evolution. It's extremely difficult to shake it up. There are a few supreme hegemonic powers that control the immortal realms, constantly providing them with the most outstanding geniuses. But in the supreme ancient immortal realms, there are still some powers that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the supreme hegemonic powers. Although they didn't control the immortal realms in the lower world, their foundations are very deep. It's basically something you can't imagine. These powers are naturally those at the peak of the pyramid, far out of your reach. Other than this, there are also some lower-tier powers that also need to unearth geniuses. Hence, the city of ancient emperors and Tao elements were created. Naturally, even for those peak powers, you have to look up to them. The crazy old freak slowly spoke. These words were all considered secrets to the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The people in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms knew very little about the 33 Immortal Realms. But this crazy old freak before him seemed to understand it very well. Not only so, he seemed to know everything about the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms like the back of his hand. Qin Wentian couldn't help but to stare at him in bewilderment. He asked, Senior, who are you exactly? The crazy old freak glared at him. He couldn't be bothered to say anything more. He then spoke. It's still hard for you to understand even if I tell you all this now. In the future, you will naturally understand. I'm telling you all this because I want you to decide. If I can send you to the other immortal realms, will you go or not? Qin Wentian's eyes flashed with sharpness. This crazy old freak was truly powerful, to think that he could actually send him out. If I leave this immortal realms, wouldn't I be imprisoned when I return? Qin Wentian worriedly spoke. That person doesn't restrict people from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. As long as you can return, you can do so. The crazy old freak spoke. I'll go. Qin Wentian didn't hesitate as he spoke. Although his cultivation speed would definitely be very fast, even if he returned to the peak stage of the Immortal King realm, there was still the Immortal Emperor realm above him. He might have to reach the peak stage of the Immortal Emperor realm before he would be able to dominate the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. During this period of time, it was basically impossible for him to remain here. Do you want to go to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, or the other Immortal Realms? The crazy old freak asked again. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Qin Wentian still didn't hesitate. If he wanted to go, he would naturally go to the strongest immortal realms. Chapter 1535. The crazy old freak had a deep smile on his face when he heard Qin Wentian's words. He then spoke, "Are you sure you want to go? Let me remind you. Even if you recover your past strength and break through to the immortal emperor realm, there are still many major characters in the supreme ancient immortal realms that can kill you. Other than the supreme ancient immortal realms, there are also many other powerful immortal realms that are much stronger compared to the azure mystic immortal realms. Do you not want to consider it?" Qin Wentian stared at the smile on the old freak's face as he spoke with certainty. "There's no need to consider it. I'm going to the supreme ancient immortal realms." Right now it wasn't so easy to scare him. Although the supreme ancient immortal realms was the most supreme immortal realm among the 33 heavenly realms, and there were indeed many people who could kill him, the stronger the immortal realms were, the greater the population. It was unknown how many low-level stellar martial cultivators stood beneath every peak character. Hence, even in the supreme ancient immortal realms, unless one reached the peak, although an immortal emperor wouldn't be considered a major character like the azure mystic immortal realms, they couldn't be considered weak no matter what. You have guts. In that case, you should cultivate well and recover your strength first. You know nothing about the supreme ancient immortal realms. If you go there like this, even an ant would be able to squish you to death. The crazy old freak laughed. Qin Wentian nodded. This was the truth. At the very least, he definitely couldn't go there now. Think carefully about what type of astral soul you want to cultivate. After speaking, the old freak's silhouette flashed as he vanished. Qin Wentian couldn't even see his silhouette clearly. It was too fast. Astral soul. Qin Wentian inclined his head and stared at the sky. The azure mystic immortal realms was actually a forbidden immortal realm. In that case, back then when his father chose to cultivate his second life in the azure mystic immortal realms, was this also the reason? The power of his clan was simply too powerful. Hence, he intentionally chose to hide in the azure mystic immortal realms, or even in a particle world. Also, even after he was born, he was still extremely careful, not daring to show his face. Uncle Black and the others were the same as well. Qin Wentian suddenly thought of the fact that his bloodline had vanished. If he was in the upper world and his bloodline was awakened again, most probably, there would be major characters who would recognize him, right? And now he just happened to have nothing to worry about. Was this a coincidence? Closing his eyes and retracting his state of mind, Qin Wentian's perception soared upwards, traversing numerous astral rivers and arriving at the 8th heavenly layer. His target was very clear. He directly chose the constellation he was familiar with back then. This constellation was a dual-attribute constellation that contained devil attribute energy, as well as undying energy. When the astral soul was condensed, a tyrannical aura gushed forth from Qin Wentian. A devil king-like silhouette appeared. Qin Wentian was like a terrifying devil cultivator. Although his cultivation base was still at the lowest level, the might he exuded was enough to cause the hearts and souls of people to tremble in fear. Originally, this was supposed to be Qin Wentian's 7th astral soul. But now it was his 1st astral soul. The disparity between the two was simply unimaginable. As for why he chose this constellation, there were 2 reasons. One of them was the inheritance of the myriad devil sovereign, and the other was the undying attribute. His soul had cultivated the undying scripture, and his fleshly body also had the undying attribute. This would undoubtedly give him an advantage in future battles. Rumbling sounds rang out as Qin Wentian started his cultivation. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. During these 3 years, Qin Wentian's demeanor underwent a great change, regaining his former glory. His eyes shone resplendently, and he was incomparably handsome. As for his current cultivation base, he was at the immortal foundation realm. Such a cultivation speed was simply shocking. However, his undying scripture allowed his soul to recover before he started cultivating again. His foundation was extremely sturdy, and in addition to the heaven-defying astral souls in his body, Qin Wentian didn't feel anything strange about such a cultivation speed. In fact, if it wasn't for him choosing a different astral soul and cultivation art, and needing to comprehend some abilities from scratch, his cultivation speed might be even faster. At this moment, a figure silently appeared before Qin Wentian. Given your current soul strength and immortal foundation, you should be able to handle some simple matters. You can head to the supreme ancient immortal realms now. I will follow Senior's arrangements. It's just that before this I still have something I need to do. Qin Wentian nodded. With regards to this crazy old man, Qin Wentian felt heartfelt gratitude in his heart. You want to go out and tell your wife that you are still alive? The crazy old man seemed to know Qin Wentian like the back of his hand. He instantly guessed what Qin Wentian was thinking. Don't worry. I will send someone to accompany you to the supreme ancient immortal realms. Let her make this trip in your stead. Qin Wentian felt somewhat puzzled, but he still nodded his head. In the highest level of the city of ancient emperors, Princess Kitamura sat cross-legged and quietly cultivated. She didn't inherit any Tao elements. Although her talent was outstanding, she was only at the initial stage of the immortal emperor realm and wasn't that conspicuous. This was the world of peak stage immortal emperors. She wasn't that famous and didn't have much emperor's fate. Although she had comprehended some Tao elements, she didn't receive any Tao elements. At this moment, she was sitting cross-legged and quietly cultivating. Little lass, come out. A voice rang out in Princess Kitamura's mind, causing Princess Kitamura's heart to tremble. Her beautiful eyes opened, gleaming with sharpness. Right now there was only one person who dared to call her this. But after that, her beautiful eyes flashed with shock. This old fellow could actually transmit his voice into the city of ancient emperors. How terrifying was he exactly? With a flash of her silhouette, Princess Kitamura prepared to leave the city of ancient emperors with no hesitation. After that, she rushed to the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. In fact, she didn't even head to the royal palace. She went straight to the forbidden grounds of the Immortal Law Mountain, arriving at the ruins. I'm here. Princess Kitamura's beautiful eyes flickered with stubbornness. Although she was now an immortal emperor, exuding boundless magnificence through the generations, in front of that old fellow, she actually felt like a little lass. This was simply inconceivable. A sloppy-looking figure appeared before Princess Kitamura. His gaze was blocked by his long hair, appearing somewhat turbid. Back then you told me to save that brat, but I didn't. Do you feel some resentment towards me? Princess Kitamura started. She didn't expect the crazy old man to bring up this matter. Although she wasn't willing to admit it, maybe back then when she came here she really did want to hint to the crazy old man to save Qin Wentian. This has nothing to do with you. Princess Kitamura shook her head, feeling a little sad as she thought back to the battle back then. In that case, back then you really wanted me to save him? The old fellow's turbid eyes brightened as he smiled at her. Princess Kitamura started. After that, she replied, if you asked me to come here just to ask about this matter, I will leave first. After speaking, she actually really turned around, intending to leave. What if I tell you that I can still save him now? The voice of the crazy old man rang out, causing Princess Kitamura to stiffen as her heart trembled. After that, she slowly turned and stared at the crazy old man. Really? Do you think I would lie? The crazy old man unhappily spoke. It's just that it would take some effort and I can't be bothered to do it. Senior, no matter what, he can be considered your successor, right? Are you going to watch him die and not save him? Princess Kitamura stared at the crazy old man. If it was someone else who said this, she wouldn't believe it. But for this old man, she believed that he would be able to do it. However, since I casually gave him a cultivation art, I can also give it to others. In addition, you seem to be very unhappy with him. I came here because I want to ask you if there's anyone with outstanding talent who you like. I'm prepared to impart a cultivation art to him. The crazy old man calmly spoke. Princess Kitamura stared at the crazy old man, thinking back to that intense battle. That unruly silhouette who killed 3 immortal emperors, that smile on his face before he died. Her beautiful eyes stared ahead as she bowed. Given how vast the immortal realms are, I'm afraid there's no one more suitable than him to inherit your legacy. I hope that Senior can save him. Is that so? The crazy old man seemed to hesitate. Princess Kitamura nervously stared at him, but after that, the crazy old man shook his head. It's still not possible. His soul has already dissipated and the price to save him isn't small. Also, you don't have any feelings for him. Wouldn't that be a waste of effort? Princess Kitamura felt a chill in her heart. After that, she bit her lips and replied, I still have feelings for him. Oh, the crazy old man narrowed his eyes as he smiled, staring at Princess Kitamura. Princess Kitamura's face was so beautiful that it seemed as though water could be squeezed out of it. But when she thought about how she said that because she wanted to save him, her heart calmed down a little. Luckily, at least I didn't waste my effort. The crazy old freak sighed. After that, he waved his hand and brought Baiming Yuhuang into the ruins. An instant later, when Baiming Yuhuang saw a figure sitting cross-legged before her, her beautiful eyes widened as disbelief flashed in her eyes. Qin Wentian also started. After that, he smiled and nodded to Princess Kitamura. He should have guessed that it was her. Old bastard. Princess Kitamura coldly stared at the crazy old man. Clearly, she knew that she was being played. What did you call me? The crazy old man smiled at Princess Kitamura. What did you say earlier? Brat, your luck with women isn't bad at all. Princess Kitamura's eyes widened even more. She was an immortal emperor, but right now, she was so embarrassed that she didn't know how to show her face. Senior Junior had a slip of the tongue. I know my mistake now. Is that so? The crazy old man laughed. He glanced at Qin Wentian before turning to Princess Kitamura. That smile of his seemed to have a deeper meaning to it. Qin Wentian was confused. He blinked his eyes, staring at Princess Kitamura's beautiful countenance. There was actually a hint of shyness in her eyes. But very swiftly after, she coldly glanced at Qin Wentian like an iceberg. What are you looking at? Qin Wentian's face was filled with black lines. He really wanted to retort, but when he thought about the fact that he had a favor to ask, he replied, Princess Yuhuang, we are truly fated. Right now, I have a small request to make. I hope that Princess won't reject it. What's the matter? Princess Kitamura asked. I wish to borrow your body to make a trip to the Evergreen Kingdom to see my wife. Qin Wentian spoke. Just when Baiming Yuhuang wanted to reject, she suddenly thought back to the tragic scene in the past. Her hair turned white in an instant, as well as those deathly gray eyes. Her heart involuntarily softened as she nodded. However, her voice was still as cold as ever as she spoke. Fine, I will go there in your place. The crazy old man laughed when he saw this scene, feeling that his scheme had succeeded. This time around he was worried that Qin Wentian would head to the supreme ancient immortal realms alone. But now, upon seeing Princess Kitamura's attitude, he relaxed a little. After so many years, it truly wasn't easy to find such a good seedling. Chapter 1536. In the Evergreen Kingdom, in the princess residence of the royal palace, two young ladies sat together and chatted. Both of them were slender and elegant, pure and beautiful. However, a faint sorrow could be seen in the space between their brows. Elder sister, if elder sister Qingqing continues to be like this, I'm worried that she would collapse sooner or later. Can you think of a solution? The slightly younger lady glanced at the lady beside her. The two of them were sisters. It's not like you don't know about the relationship between elder sister Qingqing and master. Unless master comes back to life otherwise. The young lady at the side sighed. So it turned out that these two were none other than the disciples Qin Wentian accepted back then when he brought Qing'er Qingqing to roam the immortal realms. Ji Yan and Ji Ran. The light in Ji Ran's eyes dimmed. Evidently, she also knew that her elder sister's words were right. Qingqing, is she still like this? At this moment, a voice drifted over. The two sisters instantly rushed over. Elder sister Qing'er. The two of them called out in unison. A supreme beauty appeared before them. Her hair was as white as snow and her aura was even colder compared to before. Even Ji Yan and Ji Ran could clearly sense the coldness radiating from Qing'er. We are useless. The two of them lowered their heads as though they had done something wrong. I don't blame you. Qing'er sighed. As your mistress, I didn't do my duty and have never taught you anything. In addition, I might not have the time in the future. Do you two want to go out and cultivate? I can get others to guide you. Ji Yan and Ji Ran shook their heads at the same time. Ji Ran spoke, elder sister Qing'er, don't chase us away. We are willing to take care of elder sister Qingqing until she recovers. We won't feel at ease if others take care of elder sister Qingqing. After she recovers, elder sister Qing'er can find others to guide us. Qing Er rubbed the heads of the two of them as she sighed in her heart. Her gaze then turned to the area behind the two of them. Over there was a white-robed figure with an extremely beautiful countenance. However, she was extremely haggard and her eyes were empty. With regards to the arrival of Qing Er, she didn't seem to have any reaction at all. She only stared ahead in a daze with no spirit in her eyes. In fact, one couldn't even sense any signs of life from her. She was like a zombie. Qing Er felt pain in her heart when she saw this scene. Although she was cultivating in the city of ancient emperors, she would occasionally return to visit Qingcheng. However, it was useless. It had been 10 years, and Mo Qingcheng didn't eat or drink for a total of 10 years. Even her clothes were changed by Jiyan and Jiran. She was truly like a zombie. Because she was worried that something might happen to her, she ordered people to protect her day and night. After that, Jiyan and Jiran volunteered to stay by Mo Qingcheng's side. Wentian will definitely return, he definitely will. He hasn't died yet. Qingcheng, why are you unwilling to believe me? Qing Er also felt pain in her heart when she saw Mo Qingcheng's current state. She had promised Qin Wentian that she would take care of her, but Mo Qingcheng didn't need any care at all. She had personally witnessed Qin Wentian being blasted into smithereens in front of her. At that moment her heart had already died. No matter what Qing Er said, she wouldn't have any reaction. Princess. At this moment, a voice drifted over as a strand of immortal sense descended. Upon seeing Qing Er's return, the immortal sense immediately called out respectfully. Who allowed you to spy on this place? Qing Er's eyes were cold. Her immortal sense swept out, feeling a bone-piercing coldness. Outside the princess residence, a serving girl instantly turned pale. Princess, this subordinate didn't do it intentionally. It's just that the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, Princess Kitamura, wishes to meet you. I initially wanted to inform Miss Jiyan and Miss Jiran, but I didn't expect that princess would return. Princess Kitamura? Qing Er frowned as cold intent flashed in her eyes. I won't meet her. However, at this moment, the sound of sonic booms rang out as a figure directly appeared in the princess residence. In the air, Princess Kitamura's magnificence was unmatched. She directly appeared here, and when she glanced at Qing Er and Qingcheng, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. What do you mean by this? Qing Er's expression turned even colder. I have news about Qin Wentian. Let's find a secluded place, I want to talk to you alone. Princess Kitamura transmitted her voiceover. In an instant, Qing Er's cold eyes gleamed with a dazzling light, as though she wanted to see through Princess Kitamura. After that, she spoke, come with me. Bring her along as well. Princess Kitamura transmitted her voiceover. Evidently, she was referring to Mo Qingcheng. Jian Jiran, leave Qingcheng to me. You guys wait here for me. Qing Er spoke. After that, she turned her gaze outside. Retreat? Yes. A reply rang out from outside. Qing Er carried Mo Qingcheng and led the way. Princess Kitamura followed her as they arrived at Qing Er's palace. You have news about him? Qing Er stared at Princess Kitamura as she asked. Qing Er, Qingcheng. A voice rang out. In an instant, Qing Er's cold eyes froze as her entire person froze on the spot. Mo Qingcheng's empty eyes also moved. A bright light flashed as a figure formed from an immortal sense appeared in this space. You guys chat, I will take my leave first. Princess Kitamura directly left. With a wave of her hand, she sealed the palace as she soared through the air. That immortal sense was an ordinary immortal sense that Qin Wentian had left on her. It wouldn't be able to exist for too long and would dissipate by itself. Qin Wentian did this because he was worried about Qing Er and Qingcheng. As for what Princess Kitamura wanted to do, she had already completed it. Qing Er naturally wouldn't mind the departure of Princess Kitamura. At this moment, she stared dumbfoundedly at the figure that appeared. Mo Qingcheng's empty eyes gradually regained their luster. Her eyes grew brighter and brighter, becoming incomparably resplendent. Wentian, is it really you? Mo Qingcheng's eyes instantly turned moist. She walked forward step by step, as though she was in a dream. Qingcheng, it's me. Qin Wentian stared at Qing Er's snow-white hair as well as the lifeless eyes of Qingcheng. He felt an intense pain in his heart. At this moment he hated himself. He actually caused them to suffer such torment for a total of 10 years. To them, these 10 years were even more painful than death. Emo Qingqing bit her lips. She actually bit down hard, causing fresh blood to seep out. She could feel the pain and stretched her hand out to wipe her lips. When she saw the fresh blood, when she inclined her head again, she couldn't hold it in any longer. Her tears fell like rain as she stretched out her trembling hand, wanting to touch Qin Wentian's body. However, Qin Wentian's body seemed illusory and real at the same time. He stretched out his hand as a gentle energy gently caressed Emo Qingqing's long hair. "Silly lass, this is my immortal sense." Emo Qingqing's tears flowed down her face. Her body trembled unceasingly as she sobbed. She stretched out her hands, wanting to touch Qin Wentian's face. It was as though she still couldn't believe it. "Wentian, are you really still alive?" Seeing Emo Qingqing in such a state, Qin Wentian felt even more unbearable in his heart. Qing'er didn't move forward. She simply stood at her original location. Back then when Qin Wentian died, she still had a radiant smile on her face. But now tears finally flowed down her face. Although she long knew that Qin Wentian still had an avatar that was still alive, she couldn't help but cry. Qing'er, I'm perfectly fine now. Why are you two crying?" Qin Wentian's eyes turned sour. When he saw the two of them in such a state, he was filled with boundless sadness. However, he still smiled and spoke. He couldn't bear to see the two of them worrying too much. "I won't cry." She stretched out her hand and wiped away her tears. There were still traces of tears on her face. Qin Wentian stared at her haggard countenance, which was still as beautiful as ever. He gently spoke, "That's more like it. In the future, if I'm not around, you two are not allowed to cry anymore." "Okay." Emo Qingqing nodded her head forcefully. "As long as you can return, I will always wait for you. You can say anything you want." "Silly lass." Qin Wentian's voice was gentle. Qing'er continued standing there. Although she also wanted to go over, she was willing to give this bit of time to Qingqing. As long as she could see that he was fine, she would be very satisfied. "Wentian, is this body of yours also in the immortal realms?" Qing'er asked in a light voice. She really wanted to see him. "Qing'er, this is the immortal sense of my original body," Qin Wentian replied, his words causing Qing'er's beautiful eyes to stiffen. After that, a look of wild joy appeared on her face as she asked in a trembling voice, "Really?" Back then, even though she knew that Qin Wentian had an avatar, when she saw Qin Wentian's true body being destroyed in front of her, she was still extremely heartbroken. Her hair turned white in an instant. The person who died in front of her was the person she loved the most. Even if he had an avatar, she was still willing to use her life to exchange for his. If not, she wouldn't have hidden it from Qin Wentian back then, wanting to send herself to death by leaving the city of ancient emperors. When she learned that Qin Wentian's true body didn't die, one could very well imagine how she felt right now. "The two of you, why don't you believe me today?" Qin Wentian bitterly smiled. "In that battle back then, I could be considered to have died. But due to a stroke of good fortune, I encountered a miraculous expert from the immortal realms and gradually recovered. However, I might have to leave the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms next. That senior will send me to the strongest immortal realms in the 33 immortal realms, the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms." "The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms?" Qing'er mumbled, faintly believing Qin Wentian's words. Earlier, she did suspect that Qin Wentian was lying to her, because in order to console them, Qin Wentian might have lied. In addition, that miraculous expert is currently in the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. If not, I wouldn't have borrowed the strength of Princess Kitamura to come here. After I leave, I will definitely return. You guys have to live well, there's no need to worry for me. The day I return, the heavens of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms will change." Qin Wentian spoke heroically. And as expected, after hearing Qin Wentian's words, Qing'er's smile grew even more radiant, incomparably beautiful. "My immortal sense also contains some memories. This immortal sense will transform into memories and transmit them to you. Qing'er, your talent is very high. After I leave, I will leave this last Qingqing to you." Qin Wentian gently patted Qingqing's head. The gaze of this lass earlier caused him to feel a sense of fear. "Ma'am, I know." Qing'er seriously nodded. "Also, I don't know what will happen to Qingqing after she learns of my death. But she would surely be extremely sad. You have to think of a way to tell her that I'm still alive." Qin Wentian instructed. Qing Er's heart trembled when she thought of those beautiful eyes that were filled with tears of blood. She nodded seriously and asked, "What about Jun Mengchen and little rascal?" "There's no need to tell them. That fellow Mengchen thinks that I'm dead, and would definitely want to take revenge for me. This is a good opportunity to agitate him a little. As for that little rascal, it's about time for him to work hard in his cultivation. It's just that purgatory is in a pitiful state." Qin Wentian slowly spoke. "The time is almost up. You guys have to wait for my return." The two maidens seriously nodded. After that, Qin Wentian's immortal sense transformed into a beam of light that shot towards the center of Qing Er's brows. Qing Er naturally wouldn't resist. After this day, Qing Er started to cultivate day and night. As for Qing Cheng, she gradually regained her former radiance. As for Qin Wentian, he and Princess Kitamura were silently sent out of the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Chapter 1537. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, the Supreme Immortal Realms of the 33 Heavens. The Lifelong Realm was a part of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, and was governed by the Lifelong Realm Lord. The Lifelong Realm was extremely vast and there were countless cities here. All of them were managed by the Lifelong Realm Lord's subordinates. Wind Thunder City was flourishing like a brocade. Many experts were strolling in the city. Jialan Mingyue was in a very good mood today. She, who was still young, finally broke through to the Immortal King realm some time ago. After stabilizing her cultivation base, her father passed a city to her to manage. Hence she, who was still very young, became the city lord of Wind Thunder City. At this moment, she was in a divine weapon trading pavilion in Wind Thunder City, choosing a divine weapon. "Miss, if you need a divine weapon, why don't you just ask the monarch to find someone to forge one for you? Why is there a need to go through so much trouble?" Jialan Mingyue had many female protectors around her. All of them were at the Immortal King realm. All of them were stronger than her, but who asked her to have such a high status? The people around her all understood that the Jialan monarch passed this city to her purely for her to play around with. Who asked this Jialan Mingyue to be the daughter of the monarch's beloved concubine? Even for Jialan Mingyue's current cultivation base, it was all because of resources. Now that this Wind Thunder City belonged to her, she would be able to obtain a lot of cultivation resources every year. The Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms was the Supreme Immortal Realms of the 33 Heavens. The cultivation resources here weren't something the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms could compare to. In addition, in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, those peak powers had extremely strong control over their territories. This point was also very different from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. "Why must I trouble father?" Jialan Mingyue smiled. A myriad of emotions could be seen in her eyes. She pointed to a beautiful divine robe in the trading pavilion and asked, "What's the price of that divine weapon? Since Miss likes it, how would I dare to ask for a price?" The shopkeeper immediately went over to retrieve it, and passed it to Jialan Mingyue with both hands. Jialan Mingyue's lips curled up in a satisfied smile. After walking around, she finally walked out in satisfaction. Outside, there was a group of silver-robed guards waiting for her. There was also a powerful lightning beast. It was a demon king. "Let's go and take a look at other places." Jialan Mingyue laughed. She sat on the back of the gigantic beast and the people in the surroundings all opened up for her. However, she was silently cursing the Jialan monarch in her heart. To think that he actually arranged for his unruly daughter to govern an entire city, bringing disaster to many merchants. Naturally, none of them dared to say this out loud. The Jialan monarch himself also understood that in his territory, no matter how his daughter caused trouble, it wouldn't matter at all. This was power. Roar! At this moment, the lightning beast let out a low-sounding roar. It inclined its head and stared up into the air. Jialan Mingyue and the others also turned their gazes upwards only to see two figures descending from the sky as their immortal senses swept over. The silhouettes of these two people gradually became clearer, causing the eyes of many to narrow as expressions of shock appeared on their faces. The two people in the air were actually extremely breathtaking. It was a man and a woman. There was a mysterious radiance around the man's body, and there was even a divine aura about him. He was extraordinary and refined. His face was handsome, and it made people sigh in admiration. What a handsome man! As for the woman beside him, she had a peerless countenance, exuding a sense of nobility and coldness. The moment people glanced at her, they found it hard to shift their gazes away. What a beautiful couple! It was as though they had walked out from a painting. Staring at the woman in the air, Jalan Mingyue actually felt a sense of inferiority in her heart. This made her feel somewhat uncomfortable. These two were none other than Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian, who came from the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. Is this place really the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? Yuhuang, who is that old freak? He is actually so powerful? Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura as he surveyed the surroundings below. I don't know, just call me by my full name. Princess Kitamura replied coldly. How could her heart not be filled with great waves of shock? That crazy old freak actually set up a supreme spatial formation in the forbidden grounds of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms? She simply didn't dare to imagine how terrifying it was. They actually managed to complete a spatial traversal. Yu Huang, since you agreed to come to the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms with me, we will be roaming the Immortal Realms together. Why is there a need to be so distant? Qin Wentian spoke, turning his gaze towards Jalan Mingyue. There were several immortal kings among them. All of them were extraordinary. Who wants to be together with you? Since we are already in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms, you can go your own way and I will go mine. We have nothing to do with each other. Princess Kitamura impolitely transmitted her voiceover. Qin Wentian abruptly halted as he stared at her in astonishment. Yuhong, you can't be so ruthless, right? However, Princess Kitamura couldn't be bothered to care about him. Qin Wentian wanted to cry but no tears came out. This crazy old freak, this time around he should have cultivated for a few more years and come back after he reached the Immortal King realm. Right now, he was just an Immortal Foundation expert and the cultivation bases of the people below were all higher than him. How miserable. Seems like he had to find a place to raise his cultivation base first. Women were unreliable. Below, Jalan Mingyue couldn't help but frown when she saw the two of them chatting in the air. Get the two of them to come down and reply. Yes. An Immortal King guard behind her nodded. His silhouette flashed as he soared up into the air. He cast a deep glance at Princess Kitamura, feeling that her beauty was breathtaking, causing great waves to ripple in his heart. The two of you, the city lord has something to ask the two of you. Please follow me down. That guard spoke. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian both frowned. That young woman was the city lord of this city? Among the two of them, one was the princess of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom, an immortal emperor character. As for the other, although he was only at the Immortal Foundation realm, he had even killed immortal emperors before. He naturally wouldn't place these few immortal kings in his eyes. But after contemplating for a moment, they decided not to do anything and continued to descend. After all, this place was the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. They had just arrived here, and it was best to first understand the situation in the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms. Miss, do you have any instructions? Qin Wentian came before Jalan Mingyue as he smiled. He didn't expect Princess Kitamura, this immortal emperor princess, to be polite in front of this female immortal king. Hence he took the initiative to speak. Where are you guys from? Jalan Mingyue asked. We are cultivators from the wilderness. We casually roamed the wilderness and ended up here. Qin Wentian replied. In that case, you guys are unaffiliated cultivators? Jalan Mingyue's beautiful eyes flashed. Qin Wentian nodded his head. I'm the city lord of Wind Thunder City, a subordinate of the Jalan monarch. Since you guys are unaffiliated cultivators, are you willing to follow me? Jalan Mingyue stared at Qin Wentian as a light smile appeared on her face. Although the cultivation of this young man before her was on the lower side, only at the Immortal Foundation realm, he was extremely handsome and exuded an extraordinary aura. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have him follow her. As for this woman, her cultivation base was even higher than hers and she was also beautiful. There might be a special use for her if she kept her by her side. Qin Wentian was astonished. Were the people of the Supreme Ancient Immortal Realms so direct? Although his cultivation base was low, Princess Kitamura and the others couldn't see through him at all. They actually dared to recruit him as their subordinate? Miss is the daughter of the Jalan monarch. An immortal king behind Jalan Mingyue reminded. I'm used to being unaffiliated, please don't blame me. Qin Wentian tactfully spoke. What a joke, the daughter of the Jelon monarch. Princess Kitamura was a true immortal emperor. Her father was the ruler of the Hokage Sengoku Kingdom. Wanting her to follow the daughter of the Jelon monarch? A Jelon monarch would at most be at the immortal emperor realm. Jelon Mingyue started. After that she smiled, it's fine. Since this is the case, you guys can go ahead. Many thanks, Mississippi. Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura walked past them. After they left, the smile on Jelon Mingyue's face instantly vanished. Her expression turned somewhat cold. Find an excuse to capture them and bring them to the city lord's manor. Jelon Mingyue's lips curled up in a devilish smile. In this Wind Thunder City, this was the first time she recruited someone and she was actually rejected. She refused a toast. Miss, that woman's cultivation base isn't low. The female immortal king at the side reminded. Jelon Mingyue frowned. You guys have a good reason to send people here. Even if her cultivation base is higher than you guys, how can an unaffiliated cultivator dare to resist? Yes. The female immortal king was helpless, silently cursing Jelon Mingyue in her heart. Seems like she was spoiled by the Jelon monarch. However, she still brought her group of people away. Just like what Jelon Mingyue has said, in this lifelong realm, how would unaffiliated cultivators dare to easily oppose the subordinates of the realm lord? Even if they were only the city lord of a city, above them were monarchs, palace lords, and above palace lords were the realm lord. They were all subordinates of the realm lord. Even for those major clans and sects in the lifelong realm, they wouldn't dare to antagonize the subordinates of the realm lord. Naturally, for the various clans and sects in the supreme ancient immortal realms, many of their disciples would be sent to the subordinates of the realm lord. Unaffiliated cultivators had the lowest status, and it was also the hardest for them to obtain cultivation resources. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian were taking a stroll in the city. At this moment, Princess Kitamura frowned. We are in trouble. From her words, it seems that the status of unaffiliated cultivators is very low. Qin Wentian said. In just an instant, a group of experts flew over. A female immortal king in black coldly spoke. The two of you stop right there. Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian turned as cold intent radiated from them. This was especially so for Princess Kitamura. A powerful wave of emperor's might gushed forth, causing the female immortal king in black to freeze in the air. Scram. Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. Who are you? That female immortal king questioned. Although she could sense the emperor's might, she actually didn't flee. Does this have anything to do with you? Qin Wentian frowned as he asked. His tone turned cold as well. Before this, he was already very polite. He didn't expect that this female immortal king actually wanted to capture him. Wasn't this a little too tyrannical? Of course it has something to do with me. A cold voice drifted over. It was none other than Jelon Mingyue leading a group of people here. She icily stared at Baiming Yuhuang as she spoke. An unaffiliated immortal emperor actually appeared in Wind Thunder City. I suspect that you guys are bandits and have the duty to bring you all to the monarch manor for questioning. Come with us. Bandits? Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian were both puzzled, because they had no idea what rules existed in the supreme ancient immortal realms. These people clearly knew that Princess Kitamura was an immortal emperor, but they didn't show any fear at all. It was like they had a reason to do so. The commotion here attracted many people over. All of them turned their gazes to Princess Kitamura. What a beautiful woman. Was there really such a beautiful female immortal emperor who was a bandit? A terrifying coldness radiated from Princess Kitamura. Her cold eyes flashed with killing intent. This scene caused the expressions of everyone to change. Was this woman crazy? She actually wanted to kill people from the City Lord Manor in Wind Thunder City? Could it be that she didn't know the consequences of her actions? Jelon Mingyue's expression drastically changed. Clearly, she was extremely surprised. She took out a crystal ball and a resplendent light radiated from it, imprinting the figures of Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian within. Jelon Mingyue directly spoke into the crystal ball. Father, these two people want to kill me. Chapter 1538. Qin Wentian's eyes flashed as he stared at this scene in bewilderment. He then turned to the crystal ball. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms could communicate with each other through this crystal ball? A strange light flashed in Princess Kitamura's eyes. Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to her. Yuhuang, don't be impulsive. This supreme ancient immortal realms is very strange. Our appearances might have been imprinted into the crystal ball. Also, from their attitude, it seems like they are certain that we wouldn't dare to act against them. There should be some sort of restriction. Let's make things clear first. The supreme ancient immortal realms was the strongest immortal realms among the 33 heavenly realms. They basically knew nothing about this place and couldn't help but to be more cautious. Jialan Mingyue inclined her head and stared at the two of them, her eyes filled with wariness as well as coldness. Although the possibility of these two daring to act against her was very low, it was best that they didn't meet a madman. If they died in their hands, it would be meaningless even if her father killed them. Seeing that Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian didn't say anything and seemed to be contemplating, Jialan Mingyue continued, as unaffiliated cultivators, you guys suddenly appeared in my Wind Thunder City and even have the Immortal Emperor cultivation base. I have no choice but to be cautious and bring you guys back for questioning. If it's proven that you guys are innocent, I won't make things difficult for you. Miss? One of Jialan Mingyue's protectors transmitted his voiceover. Immortal Emperors, even if they are unaffiliated cultivators, it's best if we don't offend them. Jialan Mingyue's protectors weren't like Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian. They didn't know anything. An immortal emperor was an immortal emperor after all. Their statuses were extraordinary. Jialan Mingyue used such a method to threaten an immortal emperor. Although it seemed that she was already being polite, it was still extremely inappropriate. She didn't have the authority to do so. If she angered an immortal emperor, he could completely disregard her status as the city lord. However, Jialan Mingyue couldn't swallow this anger. It was one thing if she merely rejected her, but this woman actually revealed killing intent towards her. In that case, this matter wouldn't end peacefully. She had to calm this woman down. When her father arrived, everything would be resolved. All right, I'll go with you. Princess Kitamura softly spoke. Her expression was as cold as ever. If they were in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms, how could she endure such humiliation? But just like what Qin Wentian has said, they knew nothing about the supreme ancient immortal realms. They had to understand the situation first before making any plans. This time it was everyone's turn to be surprised. This immortal emperor was actually so easy to talk to? Even Jialan Mingyue was stunned. Jialan Mingyue's lips curled up into a playful smile. After that, she smiled. Fine, you guys follow me to the City Lord Manor first. I will naturally entertain the two of you. Yuhuang, I feel that this woman is delaying for time. Are you sure you want to go? Qin Wentian transmitted his voice to Princess Kitamura. If there's any danger, just capture her directly. Princess Kitamura replied. Qin Wentian nodded and didn't try to persuade her. The two of them came to a tacit understanding and followed after Jialan Mingyue. At the same time they surveyed this city. This city was extremely flourishing. Although there was only Jialan Mingyue who was an immortal king here, it was already comparable to the major cities in their Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. In addition, there were many transaction centers with dazzling treasures. However, as soon as they arrived at the City Lord's Manor, a terrifying aura swept over. A group of cultivators descended, like a powerful army. Princess Kitamura's expression changed. She transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. There are 3 immortal emperors. One of them is a mid-stage immortal emperor, 2 initial-stage immortal emperors, and the rest are all immortal kings. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with light. Was the strength of the supreme ancient immortal realms really as strong as the crazy old freak said? Were there so many people who could trample them to death? Before this, he thought that the crazy old freak was just scaring him. Even in the supreme ancient immortal realms, immortal emperors could be considered characters of a region. He didn't expect that he would encounter such a situation the moment he arrived here. In truth, his guess wasn't wrong. Although he encountered 3 immortal emperors the moment he arrived, in truth, the mid-stage immortal emperor was already the ruler of a vast region. His status was extraordinary and he governed many cities and territories. His subordinates were as many as the clouds. The mid-stage immortal king was none other than Jialan Mingyue's father, the Jialan monarch. Upon learning that Jialan Mingyue was in danger, He instantly activated the teleportation array and appeared in the City Lord Manor of Wind Thunder City. Hence, Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian could be said to have delivered themselves to his doorstep. We pay our respects to the monarch. The people around Jialan Mingyue bowed. However, the Jialan monarch was surveying Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian was merely an immortal foundation character. He naturally wouldn't care about him. As for Princess Kitamura, she was actually a beautiful immortal emperor. This caused his imposing eyes to gleam with a bright light. Mingyue, what's going on? The Jialan monarch asked. Father, these two are unaffiliated cultivators. I want to investigate them and see if they are bandits or not. Father, these two people don't seem to know anything. I asked them to come with me and they actually agreed. Also, that woman revealed killing intent towards me earlier. Suddenly, Mingyu's voice rang out, Father, these two people seem to know nothing. Senior, me and senior sister just arrived here. We are definitely not bandits. Qin Wentian spoke. At the same time, he and Princess Kitamura were already prepared to act at any moment. If things went wrong, they would instantly capture Jialan Mingyue. Senior sister? In that case, you two aren't unaffiliated cultivators but have a master instead? Jialan Mingyue asked. Our master is a hermit. The two of us have always been cultivating in the wilderness and don't have a master. It's just that we just came out of seclusion. If we have offended Miss in any way, please don't take offense. Qin Wentian spoke. I wonder which esteemed master is able to nurture such characters? The Jialan monarch stared at Princess Kitamura as he asked. If what Qin Wentian said was true, the master of an immortal emperor wasn't a simple character. My master doesn't allow us to reveal his name. Qin Wentian bowed. So it was a misunderstanding. It's just that your actions earlier truly frightened my daughter. Also, right now, there are many bandits running amok in the Livefire Palace. The Livefire Empyrean has given strict orders to investigate. If the two of you don't mind, can you come to my residence as guests for a few days? The Jialan monarch spoke. Livefire Palace? Qin Wentian silently memorized this name. Princess Kitamura frowned. Qin Wentian spoke. Since Senior has invited us, we wouldn't dare to refuse. Senior sister, let's follow Senior there. Princess Kitamura glanced at Qin Wentian. After that, Qin Wentian transmitted his voice. Yu Huang, beauty is always an advantage. This Jialan monarch's gaze when he looks at you is different. He definitely wouldn't do anything to you. There's no need to clash head-on with him. Upon hearing Qin Wentian's words, Princess Kitamura coldly glared at him. However, she also knew that Qin Wentian had no other choice. They were completely unfamiliar with the supreme ancient immortal realms, and the enemy's formation clearly suppressed them. Could it be that they really had to risk their lives? Even if they fled, they might not be able to escape. Hence, they might as well not fall out with the enemy. This place is the City Lord Manor of my daughter. There's a teleportation array leading to my Jialan Emperor Palace. Please. The Jialan monarch was extremely polite, but his gaze was only focused on Princess Kitamura. Why would he care about Qin Wentian? Jialan Mingyue's lips twitched. How could she not understand what sort of character her father was? However, it was fine as long as he could help her vent her anger. Father, I haven't returned for a period of time. I will accompany you. Jialan Mingyue spoke. Sure, let's go together. The Jialan monarch nodded. The group of them flew towards the teleportation array. Jialan Mingyue came to the side of Qin Wentian and asked, the difference in your cultivation basis seems to be too great. I'm ashamed to say this. My talent is far inferior to senior sister. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled and shook his head. Oh, your senior sister is not only talented, she is also very beautiful. Do you like her? Jialan Mingyue joked, appearing extremely amicable. Her attitude from before was completely different, but this caused Qin Wentian to be even more wary. The speed at which her attitude changed was truly fast. How can I be worthy of senior sister? Qin Wentian laughed. He then asked Miss Jialan, the two of us have just arrived and have no idea about the rules here. Please forgive us if we have offended you. Also, where is this Livefire Palace? Jialan Mingyue stared at Qin Wentian with some bewilderment. This fellow was extremely handsome and his eyes gleamed with light, extremely mesmerizing. Because of his unique astral souls, the current Qin Wentian was even more attractive compared to the past. You really don't know? Zhelan Mingyue asked. Qin Wentian nodded. The lifelong realm. The lifelong realm lord governs an entire world region. This lifelong realm is then divided into 9 world palaces. The Lifefire Palace is one of the world palaces and is governed by the Lifefire Empyrean. As for my father, he is one of the 9 monarchs under the Lifefire Empyrean. This Wind Thunder city I'm in is merely one of the many cities under my father's jurisdiction. Zhelan Mingyue smiled. Lifelong realm. Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The name Lifelong Realm caused him to involuntarily think of the heavenly talisman realm. The Lifelong Realm lord, a world region. The 9 monarchs have the same cultivation base as senior? In that case, aren't the 9 world palace lords all peak stage immortal emperors? Qin Wentian pretended to be shocked. Aren't you underestimating the world palace lords and monarchs a little too much? The 9 monarchs are usually at the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, or at the mid-stage of the immortal emperor realm. My father is one of them. As for the 9 world palace lords, they are all above the immortal emperor realm and below the world overlord realm. They can be considered half-step world overlords. Naturally, they might also be supreme peak stage immortal emperors. Zhelan Mingyue coldly laughed. Qin Wentian's heart trembled. No wonder Zhelan Mingyue didn't fear Princess Kitamura at all despite knowing that she was an immortal emperor. If it was like what Zhelan Mingyue said, the power represented by a monarch was equivalent to a peak power in the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. The 9 monarchs under the Zhelan monarch were equivalent to 9 peak powers and the territories they controlled were also extremely vast. The Wind Thunder city was merely a city the Zhelan monarch gave to his daughter to play around in. As for the world palace lords Zhelan Mingyue spoke of, Qin Wentian thought of ancient emperors. For the 9 world palaces, leaving aside the subordinates of the world palace lords, just the 81 monarchs were sufficient to sweep through the Azure Mystic Immortal Realms. What do you mean by bandits? Qin Wentian suppressed the shock in his heart as he asked. The lifelong realm is governed by the lifelong realm lord and his subordinates. There are 9 world palaces and 81 monarchs, controlling many resources in the lifelong realm. There are some audacious fellows who would steal or even plunder resources from the lifelong realm lord. These fellows are known as bandits and are wanted by the lifelong realm lord. Zhelan Mingyue cast a deep glance at Qin Wentian, causing Qin Wentian to sigh silently. Before this, Zhelan Mingyue had pinned a big hat on him. Chapter 1539. The Zhelan Emperor Palace was a majestic place with as many experts as the clouds. After the Zhelan monarch brought Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura here, he didn't really go to interrogate them about the matter of the bandits. Instead, he politely arranged a banquet to welcome them. During the banquet, Qin Wentian even saw Zhelan Mingyue's mother. She was an extremely beautiful woman who seemed to be around 30 years of age and was actually an immortal emperor as well. Her every frown and smile was extremely alluring, but when she looked at Princess Kitamura, there was a deep meaning in her eyes. Qin Wentian's intuition told him that she was on guard against Princess Kitamura. Princess Kitamura, regardless of your demeanor or cultivation base, you are both extraordinary. After some time, the 9 monarchs will head to the Lifefire Palace together. At that time, I will bring you along and the Lifefire Empyrean would surely admire you. I would like to request the Lifefire Empyrean to give you the title of my protector. In that case, you wouldn't need to be an unaffiliated cultivator, and would be able to share cultivation resources with me every year. The Zhelan monarch spoke to Princess Kitamura, as though he had completely forgotten about the matter of the bandits. He wanted to rope in Princess Kitamura, an immortal emperor expert, and such a beautiful one at that. No one would reject her. Although Princess Kitamura had a grudge with his daughter, they didn't really act against each other. As long as Princess Kitamura became his woman, he could directly ignore it. As for Qin Wentian, the Zhelan monarch didn't even glance at him during the banquet. Princess Kitamura's eyelashes fluttered. She was still as cold as before. She calmly spoke, "Many thanks for the monarch's kind intentions. It's just that I just left the mountain and still wish to roam around. Yu Huang, becoming my protector won't restrict you. At that time I will give you the greatest freedom to do whatever you want." The Jialan monarch waved his hands. Since he wanted to rope in Princess Kitamura, how could he allow her to escape from his grasp? As one of the 9 monarchs, the Jialan monarch naturally wasn't a simple character. Qin Wentian lowered his head and drank. He could tell that if they refused, the other party would not let them go. Maybe they would become bandits. "Senior sister, since the Livefire Empyrean regards you so highly, why don't you follow him to the Livefire Palace? At that time, let the Livefire Empyrean sincerely request you to be a protector." Qin Wentian interjected. The Jialan monarch laughed when he heard this as he calmly glanced at Qin Wentian. "But Emperor, the 2 of us still don't know much about the outside world. Is the status of individual cultivators really that low?" Qin Wentian asked. "The lifelong realm is a place governed by the Realm Lord. All the cultivation resources in the lifelong realm belong to the Realm Lord and are managed by his subordinates. Hence, in this place the Realm Lord has absolute control. Regardless of clans or sects, they all have to rely on the Realm Lord and become his subordinates. Only then would they be able to obtain some authority. As for unaffiliated cultivators, there are no lack of such willful people." The Jialan monarch laughed. He didn't say anything, but it was clear that he had contempt for unaffiliated cultivators. Qin Wentian also understood many things from Jialan Mingyue. He could deeply sense how powerful the lifelong Realm Lord's control over this place was. It was completely different compared to the peak powers in the Azure Mystic Immortal realms. Naturally, this might have something to do with cultivation resources. The Azure Mystic Immortal realms had very little cultivation resources, but from the words of the Jialan monarch and his daughter, it was clear that they valued cultivation resources greatly. "Yuhuang, what do you think?" The Jialan monarch smiled as he asked. "Let me consider it a little more. However, at that time, I can follow the Jialan monarch to pay my respects to the Livefire Empyrean." Princess Kitamura also wanted to see what sort of character the 9 palace lords of the lifelong realm were. Were they really the legendary ancient emperors of the Azure Mystic Immortal realms? After learning of how strong the lifelong realm was, Princess Kitamura also sighed ruefully in her heart. The Azure Mystic Immortal realms were simply too weak when compared to the supreme ancient immortal realms. After the banquet ended, the Jialan monarch told Jialan Mingyue to bring Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian around the Emperor City. This Emperor City was named after the Jialan monarch. Not only so, if someone else ascended to the throne of the Jialan monarch one day, this Emperor City would change its name to reflect the Jialan monarch's status. The Emperor City was very vast. Also, the buildings and ground were all constructed from extraordinary materials. Qin Wentian intentionally tried, but given his current cultivation base, he couldn't even leave a mark on the ground. From this, one could very well imagine how sturdy the Emperor City was. According to Jialan Mingyue, many powerful capital cities in the supreme ancient immortal realms were all constructed from immortal-grade meteors, king-grade meteors and emperor-grade meteors. The stronger the capital city, the more valuable the materials used to construct it would be. In fact, the entire city was like a terrifying cultivation formation, filled with law energy. The palaces of some major characters were all constructed from formations and were extremely suitable for cultivation. Ordinary people basically had no qualifications to stay in the Emperor City. Each and every building was extremely expensive. For outsiders, they could only spend an exorbitant amount of money to stay in inns or rent a place. Hence, in this Emperor City, immortal kings could be seen everywhere with a single glance. Even for those with weak cultivation bases, their elders would definitely be extremely powerful. And it was precisely because of this that there were many more occupations in the supreme ancient immortal realms. For example, there were construction grandmasters that were proficient in formations. Qin Wentian and Princess Kitamura strolled around the city. All of them used immortal-grade meteors and king-grade meteors as currency. As for them, they were pitifully poor. Before this, when they saw Jialan Mingyue using her messaging crystal, they could only look at it. They couldn't afford it. When he saw the smile that was not a smile in Jialan Mingyue's eyes, Qin Wentian felt that he was extremely embarrassed. At this moment, on an elegant lake, there were many pleasure boats and dragon boats. There were also pavilions in the middle of the lake where beauties were dancing. These beauties were all dressed in sexy clothes and were extremely beautiful. The night sky was brightly lit, and people were chatting and laughing amidst the music. Although Princess Kitamura had an immortal emperor cultivation base, she had never seen such a flourishing city before. She couldn't help but to sigh in her heart. Yuhuang, do you feel like a frog at the bottom of a well? Qin Wentian stood beside Princess Kitamura. The two of them exuded magnificence through the generations, causing all the tourists to glance over in admiration. In fact, there was even a suave young master who toasted them with a smile. The two of you are extraordinary, truly a perfect match. As he spoke, the pleasure boat passed by them. Qin Wentian smiled at Princess Kitamura, only to see Princess Kitamura rolling her eyes at Qin Wentian. It's about time for me to toss aside my past understanding. Princess Kitamura transmitted her voiceover and sighed. Cultivate well. If your cultivation base improves and breaks through to the peak stage of the immortal emperor realm, this flourishing emperor city might be named after you. Qin Wentian stood with his hands behind his back. His white robes fluttered in the wind, exuding a carefree aura. Do you really want me to follow the Jialan monarch? Princess Kitamura frowned as she coldly stared at Qin Wentian. The Jialan monarch is one of the 9 monarchs and isn't a mediocre character. Even if he is interested in you, he wouldn't do anything to you. Given your beauty, no matter where you go, there would be people who would have thoughts about you. This is very normal. Since we just arrived in the supreme ancient immortal realms, you can borrow the Jialan monarch's help to get acquainted with the Lifire Empyrean. As for what happens in the future, it would depend on your own capabilities. Qin Wentian stared at the lake ahead as he calmly spoke. How could he not hope that Princess Kitamura would stay far away from the Jialan monarch? However, this was the territory of the Jialan monarch. How could it be so easy for her to leave? Are you praising me? Princess Kitamura coldly spoke. Also, don't forget that before this, Jialan Mingyue asked the Jialan monarch for you. Although she was very polite during the banquet, you have already seen what sort of character she is. She is an unruly young miss who can change her attitude in the blink of an eye. If you were to land in her hands, don't worry about it. After we leave the Emperor City, do you think an initial stage immortal king would be a threat to me? In addition, since the Jialan monarch wants to curry favor with you, she wouldn't go too overboard, right? Qin Wentian calmly spoke. Princess Kitamura glanced at Qin Wentian in bewilderment. Before this, she was somewhat cold because Qin Wentian wanted her to borrow the Jialan monarch's power. If Qin Wentian also benefited from this, she would definitely suspect Qin Wentian's intentions. However, Qin Wentian was truly thinking for her sake. That crazy old freak wants me to protect you. Princess Kitamura suddenly spoke. Qin Wentian glanced at her in bewilderment as a smile that was not a smile appeared on his face. Princess Kitamura felt a little uneasy being stared at by him. She coldly asked, "What are you looking at? Before this, didn't you say that we will go our separate ways?" I suddenly recalled the words of that crazy old freak. "Yuhuang, don't tell me you have fallen for me?" Qin Wentian joked. "Stop daydreaming." Princess Kitamura disdainfully glanced at Qin Wentian. However, Qin Wentian merely laughed uproariously. Several days later, just like what Princess Kitamura and Qin Wentian expected, Jialan Mingyue wanted to bring Qin Wentian to Wind Thunder City, while the Jialan monarch told Princess Kitamura to stay in the Emperor City. Qin Wentian had long made up his mind. He followed Jialan Mingyue to Wind Thunder City. In the city lord manor of Wind Thunder City, Jialan Mingyue brought Qin Wentian into her chambers. She lay down on a soft chair, her alluring figure laid out horizontally as she stared at Qin Wentian with a seductive look in her eyes. She smiled. "Do you feel very reluctant to leave your senior sister?" At this moment, Jialan Mingyue no longer had the friendliness she had before. "I've been together with my senior sister for so many years, I naturally feel some reluctance." Qin Wentian replied. "Do you think your senior sister is more beautiful or me?" Jialan Mingyue sweetly spoke. "Each has their own merits, it's not easy to compare." Qin Wentian calmly replied, but he was coldly laughing in his heart. Although this Jialan Mingyue was a beauty, if she wanted to compare herself to Princess Kitamura, she would truly have no self-awareness. "Oh, this Miss legs are a little tired, come and help me massage them." Jialan Mingyue stretched out her jade-like legs, exuding an alluring aura. "Miss Jialan, if you do this, your reputation would be tarnished." Qin Wentian shook his head. "Even I don't mind. What are you going to mine? Could it be that you despise this miss? Jialan Mingyue's gaze was filled with killing intent. She couldn't help but admit that this Qin Wentian was getting more and more handsome the more she looked at him. If he could serve her well, she was willing to give Qin Wentian another chance. I don't dare. Qin Wentian shook his head again. Fine, you can leave now. Jialan Mingyue smiled sweetly. She casually waved her hand. In the future, I will arrange a good job for you. Since this is the case, many thanks, miss. Qin Wentian bade farewell. After he turned around, his bright eyes gleamed with a terrifying light. Pack. After Qin Wentian left, Jialan Mingyue's expression instantly turned heavy. She directly smashed the chair beside her into dust as killing intent flashed in her eyes. This miss gave him a chance, but he doesn't know how to cherish it. Does he really think that his senior sister can protect him just because my father regards her highly? Father is too much, his lust never changes. Could it be that he wants to take a concubine again? Miss, how should we deal with him? A serving girl at the side asked. Make the arrangements. Send him to the meteorite mine. Jialan Mingyue coldly spoke, causing the hearts of the people at the side to tremble. Seems like Qin Wentian would die for sure. Chapter 1540. In the territory governed by the Jialan monarch, there were many meteorite mines that were under his protection. He was also responsible for excavating the cultivation resources within. At this moment, in one of the mines, there was an army stationed outside. They surrounded the entire area, making it so tight that not even a drop of water could pass through. In one of the passageways, Qin Wentian arrived. Other than him, there were two other immortal kings who brought him here, as well as an immortal foundation maiden. Qin Wentian, the entrance to the mine is right ahead. You are lacking in cultivation resources and can use this opportunity to earn more. Young miss is giving you a chance, you better cherish it well. The immortal king who brought Qin Wentian here smiled, his eyes gleaming with a deep meaning. In that case, please thank young miss on my behalf. Qin Wentian smiled and nodded, but a cold light flickered in his eyes. How could he not know that the immortal king had ill intentions? On the way here, he could even flee, but he didn't do so, because he truly wanted to take a look at the meteorite mine the immortal king spoke of. The two of you can enter now. Not far away, another immortal king communicated with the guards here and called out to Qin Wentian. Qin Wentian and the immortal foundation maiden then walked over with a few guards, leading them towards a mountain range ahead. Qin Wentian's immortal sense gushed forth. He felt a slight shock in his heart when he saw the guards here. There were many immortal kings here. One could see how important this mine was. The mine was opened last year. Hence, after you guys enter, it will only open again after 9 years. At that time, if you guys are still alive, you can come out together with the people inside. The guard instructed Qin Wentian and the young woman before leading them into a cave in the mountain range. As they walked deeper, they finally arrived at a spatial gate. Go on in. The guard spoke. Qin Wentian and the immortal foundation maiden entered together. In an instant, an intense spatial energy enveloped the two of them as they soared through the air. When they appeared again, they were also exiting through a spatial gate. Qin Wentian's gaze instantly froze as he stared in shock at the scene before him. Is this the mineral vein? Qin Wentian looked down. It was as if he had come to another continent. It was a vast and endless land with mountains rising and falling. Moreover, there was a psychedelic atmosphere. The woman beside him was named Yang Yun, and her cultivation base was at the 8th level of Immortal Foundation. She stared at the gleaming eyes of Qin Wentian and involuntarily spoke. Are you stupid? Do you really not know that Jialan Mingyue sent you here to die? She couldn't imagine why Qin Wentian was still so excited. Moreover, the conversation he had with the immortal king who escorted them along the way was also very strange. He was actually very polite. However, Qin Wentian was extraordinary in both appearance and temperament. Why did he look so stupid? Yuner, it's true that I know nothing about the external world. What's going on with this meteorite mine? Qin Wentian asked. Yang Yuner was dumbfounded. She stared ahead and replied, This is the first time I came to a meteorite mine, but I've long heard that in the vast supreme ancient immortal realms, there are many wondrous lands that can produce cultivation resources. However, The cultivation resources in the supreme ancient immortal realms are limited. Hence, those Empyreans would excavate the resources from the void around the immortal realms. In the surroundings of our immortal realms, other than the countless particle worlds, there would also be some wondrous lands. For example, there are stars that can produce immortal stones. On those stars, there would be unique mountain ranges that can produce all sorts of immortal stones. In that case, this place should be outside the supreme ancient immortal realms? Qin Wentian asked. We came here through a spatial gate. We should be outside the supreme ancient immortal realms. In the immortal realms, those major characters establish their own powers, controlling incomparably powerful armies. What are they doing this for? Isn't it all for these cultivation resources? Discovering, conquering, plundering, controlling, excavating. This meteorite mine should be able to produce illusion-type immortal stones. Naturally, there might also be king-grade and emperor-grade immortal stones. As for the more valuable items, that would have to depend on luck. If those major characters discovered this place, why didn't they directly move the entire mine away? Qin Wentian didn't understand. Although immortal emperors didn't have such capabilities, he believed that the hegemonic characters of the supreme ancient immortal realms would definitely have such capabilities. Minds are born from borrowing the power of the heavens and earth. In addition, they are able to produce endless amounts of cultivation resources. The more time passes, the more precious items there would be. If they directly destroyed it and took it away, it would be a one-time use item. It can produce immortal stones by itself? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness. No wonder the emperor city that the Jialan monarch was in was constructed from precious resources. The people of the supreme ancient immortal realms were powerful, hence, they had the ability to discover and excavate cultivation resources. As for the people of the Azure Mystic immortal realms, they basically didn't dare to imagine that. Just this spatial gate that could traverse vast distances wasn't something an immortal emperor could create. Why are you still not going down? A cold voice drifted over. Qin Wentian inclined his head, only to see a group of guards clad in armor, pointing their long spears at them. Before this, he actually didn't notice that there were actually experts guarding the airspace above the mine. Let's go. Yang Yuner pulled Qin Wentian's arm and moved forward, moving towards the mine. Before the spatial gate opens, anyone who leaves the mine will be killed without mercy. A cold voice rang out. Yang Yuner transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. Now you should understand that you are here to die, right? There are many people in the mine. There are criminals from the territories governed by the Jialan monarch, slaves from the various clans and sects, as well as people who are at their wits' end and lack cultivation resources. These people are all criminals. For the sake of immortal stones, they would kill each other and plunder. By doing so, they would be able to obtain more than 90% of the resources. Other than these people being extremely dangerous, the mine itself can also kill people. For Immortal Foundation experts like us, there's only a path of death for us. Have you offended Jialan Mingyue? Qin Wentian asked. I'm the daughter of the previous city lord of Wind Thunder City. Because my father was unhappy with Jialan Mingyue, who just broke through to the Immortal King realm, he rebutted her and my entire family was sent to the various mines. Yang Yuner's voice was cold to the extreme. Qin Wentian cast a deep glance at Yang Yuner. After that, he bitterly smiled and shook his head. Jialan Mingyue was treating him like a criminal. Let's hope we can walk out of here alive. Yang Yuner sighed. Let me protect you. Qin Wentian smiled. Yang Yuner started. She stared at Qin Wentian. You protect me? Qin Wentian nodded. Yang Yuner smiled and walked forward. Okay. I will wait for you to grow stronger in the future. Protect me. Qin Wentian bitterly smiled and shook his head, following after her. Not long later, they saw a group of experts mining ahead, using law energy to break apart the mountain range. The foundation of this mine was extremely sturdy. Even for Immortal Foundation experts, their speed of mining wouldn't be that fast. At this moment, a gaze turned over. The eyes of that person were as sharp as knives, as a cold smile appeared on his face. Let's go. Yang Yuner transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. Stop there. That person coldly called out. Yang Yuner froze only to see that person speaking. The two of you, come over and mine together. His cultivation base is higher than mine. He intentionally concealed it earlier. He's a ruthless character and might be at the Immortal King realm. Yang Yun transmitted her voice to Qin Wentian. Don't worry. Qin Wentian replied. He actually really went ahead to mine, punching out with his devil fists. Not long after, he saw a sparkling and translucent illusory immortal stone. Qin Wentian kept it and continued to mine. Yang Yun helplessly joined in as well. This mining lasted for several months and they obtained quite a lot of immortal stones. At this moment, an illusionary realm appeared, enveloping everyone within. Occasionally they would see illusions. A king-grade immortal stone has been excavated. That fierce-looking immortal king who had been cultivating at the side suddenly opened his eyes. His immortal sense spread out, causing many illusions to appear within his immortal sense, trying to confuse them. But very swiftly the illusions vanished as well. Everyone had a strange look in their eyes as they stared at the immortal king. Who took it? The fierce-looking immortal king stood up and asked in a cold tone. Everyone exchanged mutual glances. That fierce-looking immortal king swept his gaze over them as he spoke again. Hand over all the interspatial rings. Senior, can you leave some for us? If we don't manage to excavate enough, we will have to continue mining for the next 10 years. Someone spoke. That immortal king released a terrifying aura as his law domain transformed into a fearsome saber domain, directly slashing that immortal king into pieces. The expressions of everyone instantly turned pale. That immortal king's eyes were as sharp as blades as he pointed to Yang Yun. Little beauty, go and collect his interspatial ring. Yang Yun's body trembled. That immortal king laughed uproariously when he saw the fear on her face. Don't worry, beauty. I won't kill you. Naturally, you have to serve me well. Yang Yun bit her lips, her countenance was as pale as paper. Qin Wentian spoke in a light voice. The things you want are with me? That immortal king instantly stared at Qin Wentian as a malevolent smile appeared on his face. However, Qin Wentian's eyes abruptly changed. In an instant a pitch-black devilish light flashed, resembling two bolts of lightning. In just an instant, that immortal king howled in pain before he screamed in agony. Destroy! A formless terrifying aura gushed forth from Qin Wentian, causing everyone to feel fear in their souls. With a thud, that immortal king collapsed to the ground. There wasn't even a single wound on his body. Everyone stared at Qin Wentian as shock appeared on their faces. Under their gazes, Qin Wentian walked up and took the interspatial ring from the young man. He glanced at the items inside and noticed that there were quite a few immortal stones inside. But to him it was still far from enough. Yun I might need to enter closed-door seclusion for a period of time. I'll have some time to search for more immortal stones. Do you want to come with me? Qin Wentian stared at Yang Yun, who was still in a daze. Although he could still kill immortal kings by relying on his soul energy, he still felt extremely unhappy. He was preparing to recover his cultivation base to the Immortal King realm before exiting this place. If he encountered any trouble, he would be able to deal with it.